Around what age are you when Katrina rolls through?
Hurricane Katrina made its first landfall in southeast Florida.
And I think about 15, 16, something like that.
So when it hit, what possessed you to load up and go down there to help?
People started shooting when they see National Guardsmen. You don't see color. Those are poor black people. I was a poor white guy. Because some of the people there were there to guard the drugs that they had. And it all happens very quickly, but just like people say, when your adrenaline spikes like that, things slow down. And the guy comes up to the window. I know what shock looks like on a person's face, and he's terrified, like he's looking at a dead man. And I remember thinking to myself, that body was gonna come through both windshields and kill me. That's why I didn't think I had feet left. What you know is you gotta try to save as much of the leg as possible. I'm not gonna have feet, hopefully, I can still have my knees. What kind of cancer, you know? Am I dying today or tomorrow or next week? Unfortunately for me, it was stage 5 now.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we are joined by a special guest, a 16-year Army veteran, a Special Forces operator who spent the majority of his time fighting ISIS in Iraq and Syria. As a Special Forces operator in the Army, also known as a Green Beret, he spent time also as a Special Forces canine handler, trainer, and kennel master. In 2022, he survived a fatal car crash, and in 2024, after recovering from the car crash, he was then diagnosed with leukemia, at which point he told cancer to go fuck itself. So, today, he's alive and well, and a man that you might consider hard to kill. In today's episode, we're going to talk about what it takes to be a Green Beret, and what it takes to survive in this world, and here's some incredible war stories, both as an operator and as a canine handler in Special Forces, which I'm very excited to dive into. And many of the things you're going to hear today have not been shared publicly anywhere else. So, Mr. Ian Donovan, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Garrett. Good to be here, man. It'll be fun.
So, tell us, we'll go right into it. Where did you grow up? And we got to hear, what was it that happened when you were younger that shaped you or set you on this trajectory to sign up? You didn't just sign up conventional Army.
Right.
You signed up to become a Green Beret.
I did. Yeah, man. So I was raised in South Louisiana. It's a great place for a kid, a boy especially, to grow up. Every single day that I could, I was out in the woods, on the water, in the marsh, in the swamp, hunting, fishing, and trapping, right? I loved doing that. I was homeschooled, so I had ample time to do that, right? I was the middle kid of 5, 2 older sisters, 2 younger brothers. And probably the best thing about a middle kid is he gets forgotten, which was perfect because I've never been a guy that wanted to be in the limelight. You know, that probably really helped me later on in my career as a Special Forces operator, who are better known as quiet professionals, right? But any chance that I could, man, I was out in nature and I was in the pursuit of some sort of a game animal. A little bit later in life, I started doing that with dogs. That's going to kind of play into my role as an NPC handler later on in the military. But it was just infatuating to me. I was obsessed with trying to outsmart nature, trying to outsmart a game animal, pursue it, overtake it, kill it, eat it, right? I was just a feral little kid growing up in the swamps of South Louisiana. What comes with that is a lot of toughness. Obviously, that's a nasty place to grow up. I was surrounded by a bunch of other little feral kids like myself, and we just had a great time in nature. I was never afraid. Being out there in the dark, being out there in the cold, being out there in the heat, the bugs, the water, the snakes, you know, that stuff was just natural to me, which takes a lot of guys out, actually, of some of the training that comes later in the military and special operations in general. But that's how I grew up, man. I just grew up out there, living in nature and hunting, fishing, trapping, outsmarting animals, doing everything that I could to stay away from people and in the woods.
It'd have been like a perfect fit on that show, Swamp People, with the gators and
yeah, man,
all the Cajun stuff.
A couple of those guys are in my hometown, Houma, Louisiana, right? So it's not very foreign to me. We catch them all the time and cook them and eat them.
There's someone else famous in your hometown too?
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah,
Stale Cracker. Yeah. So that gives you an idea, you know, what the dialect is like in that part of the country. Do you remember how old you were when you first took your first game animal?
Oh, man, it's probably 7 years old.
Were you with like your grandpa, your uncle? Who showed you how?
No, my friend, man. So this is what would a normal day for us, right? BB guns, first and foremost. Gun safety was taught to us by us, right? We just knew it hurt if we shot ourselves. These little Red Ryder BB guns. We're shooting birds, we're shooting rabbits, squirrels. We'd go catch crawfish out of the ditch. We would watch, you know, my dad wasn't into this stuff. He was a white-collar guy. All my friends' dads were blue-collar Cajun guys. And we would watch them go fishing, go crabbing, go crawfishing, take their game and prepare it and eat it. we do the same thing as little kids, man. We were just little mirror images of them, right? So we go crawfishing every day. We take our crawfish. We take the pots that grandma throws out or your mom gives you to use, build a fire, boil your crawfish, eat your crawfish, right? The robins would come down, man. They're migrating south for the winter. And we'd build little hunting blinds and shoot. Highly illegal, by the way. Hopefully don't get in trouble for it now. But as kids, man, we would slaughter them. And we'd clean them out, barbecue their breasts, and eat them, you know? It was just something that's what took up our time. Yeah, we played sports. Yeah, we fought, you know, just like normal boys. But this is really what took up the majority of our time. So from a very early age, man, starting out with BB guns. A love for firearms, you know, really was built there. And then very quickly, shotguns came about. And you start going after bigger and bigger game, right? That's where I was first introduced to beagle hounds for rabbit hunting. And that's something that I'm always going to have till the day that I've got them now. I had them throughout my time in the military, although it was difficult. Keep dogs like that. You have to give them to friends when you leave. But yeah, my friend's dad understood that if he left a box of shotgun shells sitting out, we would shoot the entire box in a day. You know, anything was fair game. We were just out there hunting, having a good time.
Was there anyone very inspirational when you were younger? Someone you looked up to or that kept you out of trouble or, you know, like a father figure type?
Yeah, man, my grandpa was a super awesome guy, man. He was an old Cajun man. He was a cattleman, tough as woodpecker lips. I mean, this guy was fucking hard, right? Not the most loving guy out there, but he always had common sense. And I think that really stuck with me, man. His love of common sense was love to me, teaching me how to use my brain the right way, how to shut off your emotions, just ignore pain, just get the job done.
Give me an example.
Oh, man. So I was in 4-H as a little kid where we'd go and carve out, you know, a bull calf out of the pasture, out of the herd. If it was something that he was going to keep to be a herd sire, he wouldn't mind giving a little feed, giving a little attention, putting a little bit of money into it, and I would show that bull calf. You have to halter break these calves. So they're wild. You go out there, you separate them from the mama, you cut them off, you bring them in, you put a halter on them, put a long rope on it, and then it's cowboy time. You know, every day I'm out there in the morning before school, going, grabbing the very end of that rope, trying to get as close to him as I can. He's dragging me all over the place.
How old are you?
Probably 10 at this time. Dragging me all over the place, and now my grandpa's over there. He was a heavy smoker. He had cancer as well, man. He had triple bypass surgery and stuff. He would never smoke in front of my grandma or anybody else. But out there in the pasture, it was his time to smoke his cigarettes, right? So he'd be on the fence just sitting there smoking and laughing. And it was fun for him. Until, you know, and I'd do that every single year, a couple times a year sometimes. I had a bull calf that was pretty mean. And every time I'd go into the pen, he would come after me, try to ram me, smack me up against a fence, into a gate. I'd have to climb the fence, go back and do it again and again and again. He trampled me pretty good one time. My grandpa gets the tractor and brings it out and ties him to the tractor and just starts dragging it. Said, "You're going to learn how to walk on a halter." He didn't learn how to walk on, right?
Even with the tractor.
Even with the tractor. Those types of lessons, right? He was extremely hard. He was a smart guy. And it did work eventually. Just didn't work that day. He understood how to break an animal, but he also understood how to communicate with him. He had these cattle dogs. They were not very well taken care of. You know, when I think about how to really care for an animal, these were tools, you know. Anything he had was a tool. Horse was a tool. Tractor was a tool. Dog was a tool, right? But his ability to teach those dogs exactly what he needed them to do was amazing. So when I think about the guy that, you know, an authority figure, somebody to look up to that I thought about often throughout my hard times in the military, he was one of them. He's probably the one that shines out more than most.
And it sounds too maybe like it skipped a generation almost, right? Like your grandpa, but then your father was white collar, but then
this is my mom's dad. Yeah. I
see. Okay.
Yeah. So my father's part of the family was up north, and my mother's part of the family was down south. My dad worked in the oil field, so that's how he came down to Louisiana. But white collar guy. And he'd be out there. He'd have to take us there in the mornings. He'd try his hardest. They would fuck with him hardcore too because he had no business being out there. Didn't know what he was doing. But yeah, violence is something that is very near and dear to my heart. You know, I respect it, but I make sure it respects me too. That's just part of it, right? In order to do that, you've got to be intimately familiar with it. And a man like my grandpa was, a man like my father wasn't. But that's all right. You know, you've got to there's different men all over the world, you know, in every society, different types of men, certain types of individuals, certain types of men. Little boys like me gravitated. There's a reason for that. It was in me. It's what I needed to come out. I could never express that the right way as a kid. Obviously, that's why I didn't do well in college, right? I was not meant for college.
You did try college?
Yeah, man. Dad was a white collar guy. As a young kid, man, I don't think anybody knows what they want to do the rest of their life. Dad was an engineer, so what did I think? Just try to go be an engineer. I'm terrible at most academics, right? So on top of that, man, in the summer times, I was working in the oil field down there in Louisiana. So when I very quickly lost my academic scholarship, I was working in the oil field to help pay for some of that schooling. And man, you bust your ass and your back and your knuckles working in the oil field like that. It's very hard work, but it's just what I knew to do. You know, it was enjoyable because it was difficult. And I started to understand about me that I enjoyed difficult things. I enjoyed challenges, but I enjoyed coming out on top of it. I also knew at a young age that an old man in the oil field's 40 years old and he is broken down, you know. If you use your brain, you're going to get a lot further in life. You use your back, you only get so far as your back will bring you. You know, eventually it's going to break down. So I knew that. And that was kind of the time that I started. I was in college, first off. In the summertime, I'm surrounded by blue collar, very hardworking, very tough, very strong men, physically and mentally too, right? I liked those type of individuals. I didn't like the academics in college who whined and bitched and moaned about a very easy day. I was just out of place. So I didn't want to go back to the oil field, but I wanted to be in some sort of a fight. And that's when I really started thinking about the military a lot.
And so your grandfather, nobody else was in the military before you, as far as you know?
No. Yeah, it's not a family business. You know, it's nobody taught me about it. Nobody had stories for me to listen to. I didn't know anything about the military. I didn't know anything. You know, one thing I knew about the Army was I thought everybody fought in the Army. So if everybody fights in the Army, and the Army's the biggest branch of the military, right? I want to be the best out of those guys. And that's where the idea of becoming a Green Beret came.
And I think, you know, it sounds almost like you were on this trajectory the whole time, but you didn't have someone guiding you to the military. That's why it waited till you were 22, 23 before you pulled the trigger.
Yeah. Well, and listen, man, I was a pretty rowdy guy. You know, I was getting in fights all the time anyway, getting in trouble for it. So it just dawned on me one time, after getting in trouble for fighting, there are people that'll pay you to do that. They'll teach you how to do it better than I know how to now. And then they'll encourage you and pay you. What am I doing? You know, why don't I just go do that? So that's really, again, when I started thinking about the military. I'd worked offshore, right? I wanted nothing to do with the ship. That's all I knew about the Navy, right? So I said no. And all I knew about the Army was what I could read in books, what I saw in movies, okay? Till you go and talk to a recruiter, and then they lie to you about everything. I could tell right away, because I was a good judge of character. I had been around very hard men, and I knew what soft men were also. That recruiter was not a hard man, but he was talking to me like he was. So immediately I just didn't trust what he was saying, and I had to do more research on my own. But yeah, man, right around that time where I was just sick and tired of being around all these weak-minded people in college, I made the decision to just get the fuck out of there and go and try to do something a lot better. That's when I started thinking about the Army.
Yeah, and then what's interesting, though, is that your track into the Army was straight into special operations, whereas, meaning you selected that in the recruiter's office.
Yeah.
Probably made his day, right? I'm sure that was catching a big fish.
They laugh at you. They laughed at me. You know?
Like you'll never make it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, why would this guy think that I would make it when he has no idea even what it takes to make it? But he has, you know, this guy's been in the Army, right? But he was a truck driver. I'm sure a lot of people in a college town think that they're fucking hot shit at that age. I think everyone does. They go into the recruiter's office and say, I want to be a Green Beret. I want to be a badass. He laughs them right out of there. I said, I wanted to be a Green Beret. That's exactly what I wanted to go and do. Is there a path to go directly into the Green Berets? He said, yep. It's called the 18 X-ray contract. I said, what does that look like? He goes, you have to test for it first. So they give you a few tests to see right off the rip if you're even smart enough to be considered for it. These are strange tests, man. They're not really academic tests. They're the Army's version of what they need to know about how smart you are or how able you are to learn things. Language is one of them. And we'll get into that, but that's part of what you've got to be as a Green Beret is bilingual. So I took all those tests, and then there's a PT test, right? I could crush a PT test, right? It was nothing. Push-ups, sit-ups, and a 2-mile run. I didn't know that was a big deal, right? Because up to that point, I was in shape. You know, I'd been an athlete my whole life. Growing up, I played baseball pretty much nonstop, basketball, some football here and there. So athleticism was not a problem. But when I told him that's what I wanted to do, he said, they have these quotas there. How about you? What about this? Why don't you think about this? And then he said, you know what? I think Thursday or another day of the week, there's going to be another recruiter in here who's a real badass. He's who you need to talk to. He's a ranger. He told me he was a ranger. What I didn't know at that point was there's a difference between a ranger and someone with a ranger tab. Somebody who's been to ranger school gets a ranger tab. A ranger is a guy who's in ranger battalion. And I think that you understand this from some of your prior guests.
Yeah, we've had 2 rangers on.
Yeah. And they'll fucking tell you too, man. Okay, you got a ranger tab, but you're not a ranger unless you're in battalion.
So what was this guy?
Oh, this dude was just a regular infantryman who had been to Rangers. But at least he was an infantryman, and he laughed at me too. It's okay. But eventually I got what I wanted. And you have to go to in-process. My in-processing was in New Orleans. Well, I'm no stranger to New Orleans, when Hurricane Katrina rolled through there and I was a teenager, I was helping people out in New Orleans that were in a real bad way. I mean, New Orleans is a cesspool. It's not a great place. Dead bodies everywhere. That was a tragedy.
Is that before or after Katrina?
Yeah, well, kind of both.
It can be a rough place.
It is a terrible place.
But let's roll back there. Around what age are you when Katrina rolls through?
And I think about 15, 16, something like that.
And something occurred to you, like how far of a drive were you from that?
About 45 minutes.
Oh, so when it hit, I mean, what possessed you to load up and go down there to help?
Man, that's just the Cajun way. It's a very unique part of the world now. When people go down there, they understand, like, those people are very genuine. They're very nice people. We're always trying to help each other. We don't see color. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Those are poor black people. I was a poor white guy. You know what I mean? Like, it's similar. The only difference is I knew how to survive during a natural disaster just because of the way that I grew up.
Basically grew up outside.
Grew up outside. So when I went there with a boat and started helping people during Hurricane Katrina and saving people and seeing dead bodies just stacking up or water's draining out, vultures landing on them, and
And you're there by yourself?
Well, there's a group of us that went down, but I had a little hunting boat, so it's not a boat that's really big enough for more than. I needed just me in that boat because I wanted to stack people in, get them off their rooftops, and get them in, get them water, get them food. Man, it was an incredibly devastating time that the media did not do a good enough job portraying how devastating it really.
I think you said too, I mean, the water was so high, you didn't put your boat in at a boat ramp. You put it in off the highway.
Yeah, on an on-ramp to the
on-ramp became a boat ramp.
Yeah, it's
and then
crazy.
you were out there just driving, picking up bodies. I mean, passing by the dead bodies, but
right.
Picking up anyone that was alive.
Yeah.
And then there was an interesting story you told me that there were some National Guard guys that wanted to jump in with you.
Yeah, man. So National Guard was out there. Obviously, they had no magazines in their M16s, no ammunition. I mean, you might as well start paddling with it at that point. What is it good for, right? So he asked me if he can come with me. I said, sure, jump in. We go. And at this time, I had found some people and brought them back. People started shooting when they see National Guardsmen because some of the people there were there to guard the drugs that they had, in their attics, the stuff that they were doing. They didn't want to leave. They wanted to be left out. Very early on, I think later on, they knew that they were going to die from exposure alone if they didn't get brought in. I think a lot of people thought the water was just going to go down. That's not what happened. So immediately I turned around and said, you got to get the hell out of my boat, man. When they see me, they just know I'm a neighbor. I'm a fellow Louisianian coming to give them a hand. So, that was my first interaction ever with the military. And I just thought it's strange. If you're going to have a gun, all I knew about guns, if you're going to have a gun, have it loaded. That's what hunters do. And I thought that they were hunters, and I couldn't have been more wrong. I thought everyone in the Army shot a gun. I got there incredibly mistaken.
So fast forward to you're signed up, and again, the way you signed up was, I don't know if you can give them like a percentage, but most folks find their way, if they do find their way to becoming a Green Beret, may take a little bit more of a traditional route, maybe signing up as an infantryman or an Army Ranger, and then eventually, after so many years, make their way to that. You basically skip the line or fast-tracked it. How many people do that on average that are in the, as a Green Beret?
Well, when war's blowing and going, that's why the X-ray contract became a thing. They needed to produce more Green Berets, more special operators. So that's how the X-ray contract came into existence. And a lot of conventional guys didn't like that. For good reason, man. Like, I understand how
they've earned it, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, man. Well, they understood how the Army works, and we'll get there. I mean, I knew nothing about the Army. When I got there as a Green Beret, I had just earned the beret and the tab because I'd gone through the training. I had no experience with the military in general, with the Army in general, really. But yeah, that was the route that I took. It's the route I wanted to take it. And I told myself, man, if I couldn't for whatever reason, if I failed out, I would just get out of the Army and go back to the oil field. That's all. That was the only thing that I wanted to do.
Yeah, and by the way, it is a little risky too, right? Because you sign up as an 18 extra, but if you fail at any point, where do they drop you back to? Cook? I mean, what?
No, so at that point, you're already infantry qualified and airborne qualified. So you're going to go to the airborne infantry, probably the 82nd Airborne Division. Man, I always say the X-ray contract, you get a lot of college grads as X-rays. There were a ton of college graduates now in the airborne infantry because they just failed out. So it was great for the airborne infantry. Got some, maybe some smarter guys, maybe more educated guys. I'm put it that way. It's just because you got a degree does not mean you're smart. But they had some guys that could think on their feet a little better, I guess, were more educated. But a lot of those guys ended up getting out of the Army too, just because if you can't get to where you want to be, you should probably get out. So you just end up, you've really got to drive your career. That's one piece of advice I'd give everybody who's considering it. Know exactly what you want to do and do that. Make sure you do. Because if you leave it up to the Army to determine where you go, you're going to go what's called needs of the Army. Whatever they're low on, that's where you're going. There's no talent management, right? They don't see what you're capable of and think, oh, he'd be a really good fit here. No, man, it's a big green machine. Just keeps rolling on, right? They don't care. They just need body. So, yeah, that was the route I wanted.
How many were in your class? Or I guess there's different stages, but like, what's the pass-fail rate?
Yeah. Well, first off, man, it's a pretty small community. Less than 1% of the military special operation. Now they are trying to what's called mass produce them with this X-ray contract. So when I went in, I went to basic training, and that's infantry basic. There were a few X-rays in there with me, but majority of those kids were 11 Bravos, which is an infantryman. You're going to go through basic training. You're going to go through AIT. You're going to go to airborne school right after. From airborne school, as long as you pass that, which is jumping out of planes, parachuting, it's 5 jumps. Really, by the time you're done, you've fallen out of a plane 5 times. It's nothing special. You're going to go from Fort Benning, which I can't remember what they call it now. Hopefully it goes back to Fort Benning. It'll always be Fort Benning for me. I sweated my ass off and bled there quite a bit. So go from Fort Benning in Georgia to Fort Bragg in North Carolina. We get there at like 2 a.m, and immediately we get off the bus and they start smoking.
And what would this school be called?
This is where you're going now to the Special Forces preparation course. We thought we were just going to walk straight into it. What we didn't know was there's a hold, right? In between all these courses, there are hold periods where you have to wait for that course to vacate ahead of you, and then you can go into it, right? And there's always rollbacks that have failed. Maybe they'll get another shot for whatever reason. But these holds in between each individual section of the Q course, qualifications course, which we'll get to, those holds are brutal because you've got cadre there, Green Berets, that are there and have nothing better to do than do PT with you twice, sometimes 3 times a day. So we get there that morning, 2 a.m, and we just get obliterated. It's this massive hill. It's raining. It's cold. They're making us run up and down the hill, low crawl, push-ups, sit-ups, flutter kicks, the whole thing. They break us free right before chow. We get about an hour to clean up and report back. And I thought that I was getting smoked by a Green Beret. This guy that was smoking us was a student who had failed out of a prior course, and they put him there to help the cadre. So the cadre didn't have to be there at 2 a.m. They could be home with their families sleeping. So
this wasn't even the real deal.
No, man. And that guy got pretty lumped up later on once we found out. But yeah, so you go there. Now you're going to be going to a Special Forces preparation course, which I think was a 3-week course where they teach you. Basically, they try to teach you the skills necessary to pass Special Forces assessment and selection. In my Special Forces, and it's brutal, man. A lot of times they break more kids down than they help. You want to go into selection really healthy, right? Depending on how brutal your prep course is, you may go into selection with some microfractures, sick, just beaten down, very little energy muscle because you're just burning through it.
Anybody not make it through those first 3 weeks?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, mostly for injuries. And when you put a rucksack on and you step off on a 12-mile ruck and it's dark and it's freezing, it's well below freezing. I mean, you're sprinting. I had always, in basic training, ruck march. Yeah, we would kind of jog every once in a while. That's just because you're in a single file line and it's constant ebb and flow, constantly trying to catch up and then slow down, catch up, slow down. Everything about any ruck march or any movement in the Q course or in the prep course was you are getting from point A to point B as fast as humanly possible. And I don't care if you're broken by the time you get there. That was it. We were competing against one another and competing against the clock. So guys were getting injured pretty bad. Microfractures in the legs, broken ankles, falling over. It was rough, but that's just what it is. You've got to cannibalize that was something that we talked a lot about. Never would I leave a fallen comrade, right? We're not talking about that. But in training, it's an individual. At times you're going to be judged individually, and at times you're going to be judged in a team. And when it's individual, man, it's every man for you. Either make it or you don't, which is what I loved. The clock doesn't care about your feelings. You either make time or you don't. The rucksack doesn't care about your feeling. It is the weight that it's going to be. And then you can add water weight on top of that if you want to drink water. Those concepts are what I love so much about it, because now it wasn't people determining what was happening with me. It was me determining whether or not I'd be successful. And that's the only way I wanted to do it. Yeah, 3 weeks of a preparation course. After that, we were beaten down. But we go into selection. Special Forces assessment and selection for me, I want to say it was still 2 weeks when I went through. I think it's longer now. They constantly change things up. But that was an ordeal. It was actually a pretty fun time, most of it. When I say fun, let me see how I can explain this, right? It's physically exhausting, and it'll beat you down, and it's painful. I mean, literally painful. But it is enjoyable and fun because you're doing all these painful things with other guys, and you can start seeing different people that you thought were strong guys breaking down. It only empowers you more and more. You've got sometimes you got some collegiate athletes, D1 athletes, professional athletes sometimes that go through that. And the cadre will tell you, man, point those guys out. Those guys won't be here at the end.
Why them specifically?
Because it's always been easy. They're gifted athletically, genetically. This is going to break you down past the limits that your mind can handle. Your body can handle, but your mind's got to be able to handle. And if you're not mentally strong, you don't have mental resiliency to tell your body to shut the fuck up and keep going, and you're just going to quit. You're going to fall out. You're going to have that excuse, right? Sports for a lot of those guys came very easy because they were very talented. But hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. Something I learned there. These guys I was nothing special. In my career, I was always the gray man, but I was definitely good enough. Right? These guys, everything came easy to. They never really had to work for it. They really had to start working, and little luxuries were taken from them. They didn't have their rollers to roll their muscles out. They didn't have their Motrin and ibuprofen.
Ice baths.
They didn't have ice baths. It was, you suck it up, you get through the pain, you use that pain as fuel. The more you hurt, the harder you need. But know your body too, man, because if you're going to break a leg, you better learn how to splint it really quickly and keep going. Those are things that happen sometimes. And yeah, you may not have made time, but that's another thing that I loved about assessment and selection too. There are hard times that you have to meet, but everything comes into play there. Yeah, I snapped my leg in half, but I'm cognizant enough to be able to splint it and finish the movement, right? They're going to look at me, and maybe if it's not gross enough that I can actually heal and come back, that's a guy that's probably going to come back. Not a guy who laid down and asked for help or said he quits, he can't go on anymore, So as much as they're testing the body, even more than that, they're testing the mind and they're testing your will. But assessment and selection I went through in December, real fucking cold, especially for a Louisiana boy. Miserable. It was miserable. But again, you find comfort and you do enjoy the suck because everybody. And like I said, you've got individual things that you've got to do on your own where they're just grading you individually. That's simple, man. You're going to be as successful as you make your. But then there's team week. And a lot of these studs who can do things on their own fail out of team week because they cannot be a member of a team. They're really shitty teammates. And to be honest with you, that is the most important thing for a special operator, for a Green Beret. I'm not good at what I do to save my life. I'm good at what I do to make sure my buddy's good, right? His life is more valuable to me than mine. And it's a concept that's very difficult for people to understand, but that's why we are so successful. So team week was telling. You have in assessment and selection, you got x-rays, so guys like me who have no Army experience. And then you have conventional guys that are already in the Army that want to try out to be a Green Beret. So they come from their units, hopefully they've trained up, and now they're in assessment and selection with you. You have officers and enlisted. And in the Army, officers kind of tell enlisted guys what to do, right? So these officers have a real hard time with a private. My rank was a private. I was nothing, having to tell them what to do. But if it's right, it's right. You know what I mean? That made sense to me because I didn't understand the rank structure yet. I hadn't been there. I think that was another reason that I was successful there. I noticed these dynamics, reading guys, reading men. I noticed the egos. That is something you just cannot have in that world, man. Humility is everything, for sure. But I noticed those guys were just going to burn themselves. So they take over, and you have all these tasks that you've got to complete that are almost impossible tasks. They don't even really care if you get it done. Sure, they want you to get it done. They want to see how you get it. They want to see how you work with one. You're going to remain tact, right? You're going to remain disciplined. Discipline is everything. These guys with egos just didn't do it. And I let them in the beginning take over. Okay, here's the problem. Move this Jeep with 3 tires, send you 10 miles down the road, whatever it's. Here's an axle. Here's another tire, and here's all this lashing. You got to try to make it all work. And you have a rucksack on your back and a weapon, just like you would on mission. These guys see the problem, and they immediately jump in because that's what they've done their whole careers. They're in positions of authority in the Army, and they utterly, because they're telling people what to do, instead of taking an assessment of the brain power that you've got and trying to use everybody's strengths to our advantage, they just kind of relied on themselves to tell people and direct people. And people lose faith in a guy like that very quickly. That was nice. It was good for me to see that very early on and understand it. But I let those guys burn themselves out until everybody hated them in our little group. And then I said, hey guys, let's come together. Let's think about a way to do this that makes sense. I don't care who you are. If you have a good idea, I want to hear it. At that point, people are looking for a savior. You just got to know when to step up and be the savior. And that's all that it was.
Where'd you learn that, you think? It just came natural?
Oh, man, that's just understanding how to read, understanding social settings and social atmospheres. And that's always been fun. Should never be the smartest guy in the room, and I never was. If I ended up being the smartest guy in that room, I'd go to a different room. Because if you have 2 feet in chaos, you're never going to grow. If you have 2 feet in order, you're never going to grow. You have to have 1 foot in chaos and 1 foot in order to continue growing. And that's pretty much how I live my life, especially how I conducted myself during my career.
I guess it goes without saying you do graduate.
I got selected, went through the Q course, graduated.
Well, I know there's a really funny story that kind of encapsulates everything that you've talked about. In short, how you made it in, but you also have no idea what the hell you're doing.
No clue.
And we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to hear the story about the manimal.
Yeah, let's do it.
We'll be back in just a minute.
This podcast is brought to you by coffee. It's exactly what's needed to make this podcast happen. Now, the only way that I can afford to buy this coffee is if you help out by not only like, sharing, and subscribing, but I don't know if you know this or not, this podcast is fully funded by yours truly, fueled by coffee. And the only way that we're able to afford this amazing set and pay Jeremy, who's behind the camera right there, is helping us out with our online dog training platform. That's DIYcanine.com. Whether you have a dog or puppy, or you know someone that has a dog or puppy, guaranteed they're not as well behaved as they could or should be. And that's what we specialize in. Industry-leading courses, helping you out no matter where you are in the world, no matter how old your dog is, what issues you're dealing with, no matter what your level of training or experience, we are here to help you train your dog or puppy from 0 to hero. Absolutely guaranteed to help you get across the finish line. We have a 30-day money-back guarantee on all of our courses because they simply are the best and they are guaranteed to work as long as you put in a little bit of effort. Dog ain't gonna train itself. We already know that. Anyways, if you want to help support this channel, check us out, American Standard Dog Training, and again, DIYcanine.com, where we help you train your dog from the comfort of your home to be the best that it can be. Thank you so much. Now let's get back to the podcast.
All right, folks, we're back from the break. Mr. Thanos has joined us. So if you hear anyone farting or snoring off camera, that's because Thanos is going to be over here on his couch. And it's kind of like a casting couch, but only for Thanos. So you can do with that with what you want. But we were with Ian, and Ian was telling us how you graduated. I don't know what you call it. You graduated, you earned your beret?
Yep, you get your Green Beret. So you finish the qualifications course where you learn your job, you learn your language, you learn how to operate at a very basic level as a Green Beret. And at the very end of it is kind of a final culmination exercise where you deploy into an indigenous or into another country, like theoretically, with an indigenous population. You have to win those guerrillas over. You have to train them. You have to live with them. You got to do successful missions with them. You got to do your job well, and then you graduate. And it's the last stressor, of the 1.5 or 2 years of the Q course. So yeah, after that, I get my beret, get my long tab, still know nothing about the Army.
I mean, are you still considered like the fucking new guy? Like,
oh yeah. Now you're just the new, you don't even have a team to call you the new guy yet. Now they're going to send you to whatever group you're going to, right? So
how does that work, by the way?
Yeah, so
maybe if you can.
Yeah.
I know there's 5th group.
Yeah.
Which is more what, mountainous? Or help me out here.
I'll explain it. Yeah, man. It's funny, but it's got to be explained. So there's first group, 3rd group, 5th group, 7th group, and 10th group. And then we have 2 National Guard groups. I think that the number designation was that way in Vietnam when Green Berets came about, so that our enemy thought that we had 10 special forces groups instead of only 5. But each group's area of responsibility in the world is tied to whatever languages they are mission in. So when I've got, and you have to test for your languages, right? I love them to death, but my dumb guys who aren't great at languages, they're getting Spanish and French. They're going to 7th group in South America because these Romance languages are super easy, right? For whatever reason, man, I have no idea, but I tested for Arabic.
You wanted to, or you?
Oh no, I didn't. I did want to go to the Middle East. I wanted to go and fight. I wanted to go fight. I wanted to get.
Because the war's already brewing.
It's going. Yeah, it's blowing and going. I wanted to get to the fight as quickly as I could, as high up. I wanted to be doing it with the best guys that were doing it, right? So, it was it was good and bad that I got Arabic because for me, it was a very difficult language to learn, but it's 6 months. When I went through, it was 6 months of language school all day long. You're in a classroom learning how to read, write, and speak it. So because of Arabic, I get sent to 5th Special Forces Group, which is in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and our area of responsibility is the Middle East, right? So we've got Pashtun, our Farsi speakers, Russian speakers, Arabic speakers, mainly in 5th group. So that's how I knew that was probably where I was going to go. I could have maybe gone to 10th group, who deploys to Europe mainly. But everybody was working in the Middle East, all groups were kind of cycling through there because that's where the war was. Right. For 20 plus years, right? But I knew I had a good chance to go in a 5th group, and I didn't mind it one bit, man. Whatever got me in the fight as soon as possible. I remember as a kid, man, watching 9/11 happen, and as a kid being angry. I didn't know what patriotism was, really. I just knew that somebody came here to my home, fucked up, my American. And I was, as a kid, man, I remember being extremely angry and wanting to fight because of that. And that just blossomed into the beautiful career that I had. But again, that's where I ended up. So you're right, man. Get your beret, get your tab, get orders to go to your unit. I get to my unit, and at that time, language was a big thing. They really wanted you being proficient in language. And when the war was blowing and going, a lot of the guys kind of dropped off on their language capabilities because we had Terps. They were fighting much more than they were kind of working by with and through individuals. Americans were leading the way and getting it under control until we were able to kind of get the local population built up into a fighting force that was capable of doing it on their own, and then we would go and do it with them. So language capabilities was something, it was a big push when I first showed up to group, and unfortunately for me, man, my language score had expired. It's only good for a year. Every year you've got to get on a phone with somebody who's testing you, and you got to have a conversation in Arabic. And there's scenarios on that phone call. You've got to score a certain score or you fail the test. And if you fail the test, you're probably not going to deploy. So if you're going to be there, you better be decent enough at your language. Now they have tutors there that, tutor us up and teach us. So anyway, I get there, and I'm ready to go. I show up, and the in-processing guy says, "Oh, I see you're not current on language." I said, "No." And the reason that I wasn't current on language was because I had failed a portion of the Q course, and I had to get recycled through it. This is embarrassing to say, but I'm an 18 Bravo. That's not embarrassing. 18 Bravo is a Special Forces weapons sergeant. So our specialty is all weapon systems organic to the United States military. Crew served weapons, your rifles, your pistols, the mortars, right? And any rocket launchers, anything like that. So anything that we would use in our job, or anything that foreign weapons as well, U.S. and foreign weapons. We've got to know how to break them down, take them apart, fix them if they're broken. It was really what I wanted to do. And to be honest with you, they do a decent job of kind of talent management at that point, testing you to see if you're going to be smart enough to be an 18 Delta, which is our medic. I was not, right? But that's okay. I really enjoyed that job too. But the Deltas took a lot longer to get through the Q course. The medics were in the Q course a lot longer than everyone else was because their medical piece is much, much more intensive. So I had failed a portion of the Bravo course, of the weapons course. And it made me a better Bravo because I got to redo it. So you are drinking through a fucking fire hose, man, when you're there.
People might ask, would you fail?
Oh, so there's a timed assembly, disassembly, or disassembly, reassembly of all the weapons. And I was seconds away from passing the 50 cal, M2HB, heavy barrel, 50 cal. Very important weapons. Headspace, timing, all that stuff. Now you don't even have to do your headspace and timing, and veterans, or if anyone's listening to this who understands 50 cals will know Headspace and timing for a 50 cal, you used to be able to set that yourself, and you could manipulate how quickly, like the rate of fire would be on that machine gun. But your headspace had to be right, because if not, a round would explode before it was fully chambered, and then you'd have a catastrophic malfunction. So headspace and timing was something you had to make sure you did right there, all timed. I failed by a few seconds, and I was devastated.
But that put you back how much? Another month?
Oh, man, 2 months. Yeah.
Wow.
2 months. And again, your language score is good for a year. So if I wouldn't have done that, it would have been perfect. But what was even worse, man, was all the dudes that I had bled with and sweated with up until this point, going through all the different phases, they go on without you. And now you're recycled to a new group of dudes, very similar to them too. But it's new guys. You know, you want to be with your buddies. It's good for me because I had buddies in front of me, and now I made a bunch of new friends. And man, you can't have too many friends in Special Forces. They are the best men that I've ever known. You know what I mean? It's incredibly, you're very spoiled, man, when you go to work every day and you're surrounded by like-minded individuals who there is no problem that cannot be solved. There's not, problems aren't even problems in that world, right? Because everybody knows how to fix them, and even if we don't know how to fix it, we will get it done. You know what I mean? It's just who you are as a human being. So that was probably that's probably the biggest thing that you miss, you know, when you get out of that type of an environment. Now you're working in corporate America. That's why those veterans normally always just want to hang out with each other, because you're just looking in the mirror every time you look at another dude. But anyway, I get to my unit, and my language score's expired. So the in-processing guy says, schedule yourself a language test. You're not going to be put on a team until you have a current language score. Everybody was trying to get a current language score at that time. So all the test slots were taken up. I was like a month out, man, to be able to take a language test. So what do? I don't know. I have not been in the Army that long, especially not at a unit. You know, I've never been at a unit, never been assigned to a unit. I've been basic training, airborne school, and then training, and now I'm at a real unit. What should have happened was somebody should have taken charge of me and given me a place to be every day, and maybe a few tasks to knock out, or maybe start introducing me to guys on teams, or even team dynamic, or what's called the B team. Every company's got a B team. So all of the ODAs, operational detachment alphas, in a company, 1 through 6 teams in a company, or at least it was whenever I was there. There's a B team in that company as well. That B team is also Green Berets. They are probably the most senior dudes in that company, and they are supporting all of the A team. We like our support coming from people who understand exactly what we do. So that's why we staff it with Green Berets. A lot of times, man, young guys who, like me, would have been put on the B team so that we could at least start learning how to integrate, how to do our job. That is not what happened. Nothing happened. He just said, when you have a language score, so what do? You know, I'm there to work. I'm there to train. I'm there to go and fight, right? All I know to do is go work out. Okay, that's pretty good for me because I love working out, and our facility to work out in was top notch. It's specific to us. Most special operations units are on a military installation, but there are a lot of other units, conventional units around you, but everything you need is right there, organic to you. So we had our own gym, our own trainers, our own physical therapists, you know, all that stuff. So that's really what I started doing every day. And I'll never forget, man, the first day I walked in to the 5th Group gym, I'm expecting to see guys like me. And what I fell in on was dudes who were still doing the job, active duty, very seasoned Green Berets, who may not have a leg below the knee or may not have an arm below the elbow. And these guys are getting the fuck after in the gym. It's not stopping them from doing squats. It's not stopping them from doing their jobs, you know. That never occurred to me, right? It never occurred to me the carnage that I was going to start seeing and experiencing to the human body that comes from war. But the mindset that it takes to be hard to kill, right? To continue on and continue being an asset to your team and to your unit and to your country, not feeling sorry for yourself. You don't waste a second feeling sorry for yourself, because that does nothing good for you, only bad.
That is pretty incredible. I mean, you'd think when you get your leg blown off or shot off or amputated or whatever, like that's a pretty good excuse to tap out. No one, I don't think, would give you a hard time. Stick me behind a desk somewhere. And these guys are right back after it.
Right back at it.
And it's also really cool to hear that they would allow them back.
Well, there's a test they got to take. You know, they have to be able to perform. But these guys are freaks, man. You know, I mean, in my career, I have just been surrounded by some of the most gifted individuals that I'll ever know, you know, physically and mentally as well. But just physical specimens, you know. Again, I was never one of those guys. I could do the job and do it well, but I wasn't a D1 athlete. I wasn't a professional athlete. I wasn't an Olympic athlete. And that's what some of these guys could have done. They chose to go and use their body to serve their country instead. So I couldn't have thought of a better introduction than me walking in the gym that day and seeing that. And when I'm feeling fucking sorry for myself because my knees hurt because I just had a rough ruck or run or whatever it may be, think about the dude who doesn't have a fucking knee and who's still getting after it. You know what I mean? About the guys doing this with one leg, one arm. And then there's all the injuries that you don't see. Multiple Purple Heart recipients who've gotten shot or blown up, frag, bullets taken out of their bodies, you know. Sure, they may not have broken bones. Some of them have, and they've just rehealed. They're still after it, you know, doing the job. It was incredible. And I knew that I was in the right. I knew that I was where I needed to be. And, you know, from that day forward, I made a promise, not to myself, but to everyone that I would work with, that I was going to be the best that I could possibly be for them, for those guys, you know, not for me. And that's what it is. That's what the brotherhood is all about. But I'm in there working out and doing my best, just extremely motivated now to train and be as good and as strong as I possibly can be, as fast as I can. And in this gym, there's this guy, man, he's a manimal. That's what I call him. Just a man who looks like an animal, looked like an ape. He was barefoot and he was just getting after it. Barefoot squats, deadlifts.
Older guy too?
Older guy, but just a brick shit house. You know what I mean?
Like how old, by the way? Just trying to picture it.
Well, Special Forces, 40 years old. You know, this guy was probably in his mid-40s. What a specimen. You know what I mean? So he's in there pretty regular. Every day that I go in there, I see this guy, and you know, we start working out around each other. He sees me putting out. I think he liked that, obviously, because I am destroying myself on a daily basis. I had nothing else to do, man. I had no job to do. That was my job, was to just get as strong and as fast as I possibly could. So that's what I'm in there doing, and because of that, we start working out together, you know. Just kind of very briefly shooting the shit. I'd spot him, he'd spot me, you know. It was just organic, you know. It's just what happens in that environment, your brothers. He didn't know who I was. I didn't know who he was. I knew nothing about it. It wasn't until like week 2 of that. Somebody came in and was talking to him. He goes, who the fuck's this guy? And he goes, this is Ian. He introduced me. He goes, Ian, where are you at? I said,
nowhere.
I'm in, you know, what I wanted to say was I'm in the gym right now. I didn't even know what that meant, you know. I said, I just got here. And I'm waiting for a language test. He goes, yeah, but where are you right now? And I kind of explained the situation to him. And he said, okay, we'll fix that. So I leave the gym, and this guy kind of walks out after me. And he goes, Ian, you know who you've been working out with? I said, no. He goes, that's the commander of 5th Special, right? That's the guy who runs this whole operation. And I think he was hoping to get across to me, like how lucky I was to be in that guy's presence. I just thought he was another bro, and they're putting in work just like I was. Right? But that was the guy's personality. My commander was that down to earth that he would just work out with a brand new basically a private in Special Forces. You know, I was a sergeant, but I was only a sergeant because you had to be a sergeant to be a Green Beret, right? So I said, no, I didn't know that. He goes, don't you mean no, sir? And I said, no, and we're all in civilian clothes. I've never seen none of these guys in the gym are in a uniform. This guy was a very high-ranking warrant officer there who knew the commander, obviously. And the commander called me. He said, hey, man, get back in here. We're going to fix whatever the fuck you got going on. So go back in there. And the next day, I took my language. Apparently, yes, there was a line, but these were guys that had been in the unit that had a chance, you know, to get their language where it needed to be. He pumped me in front of everybody because I needed to get going with my career. Fast forward a year, you know, I was very grateful. That was my first introduction. Both those instances really, really paved the way for me to understand that I was in the right spot. And
that gentleman, the manimal, you know, you had come to find out later, not only is he like your boss's 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 boss, but
he's the boss. Yeah.
He was former Delta Force, just a real badass, right?
Real guy. Yeah, real operator. Came from Delta, came and took 5th Group. Great guy, very down to earth. Was the type of guy who would listen to the lowest ranking person in the room if you had a good idea. That's just what it is, man. Put your ego to the side. And again, I think that he was that guy because he was so serious about fitness. The weight doesn't give a fuck about your feelings, bro. You either move it or you don't. That was him, you know. Physical fitness was everything to him, personally, but also throughout the unit, you know. So fast forward a year, we're in the best team competition at 5th Group. They pick a team from each of the battalions. There's 4 battalions in each group. So in our group, there's 4 battalions. They pick 1 team from each battalion. And now all 4 of these teams are competing to be the best team in 5th Group. It's a miserable competition. It took us over 36 hours to complete, nonstop. And at the end of it, the group commander is going to give you the trophy for the winning team. That was the next time I came face to face with that because I avoided him like the plague after that. I didn't want, you know what I mean? I knew that I had fucked up. I didn't know how badly. So I did not want to be buddy with the group commander. That was not where I needed to be starting my career or how I needed. So the next time I saw him was there, and sure shit, he obviously remembered. But that feeling of pride, you know, when he looks at you and shakes your hand and gives you that trophy, again, that's just another notch on the belt for me. And I think any young Green Beret, it would have been, right? But again, that was, I enjoyed the opportunity to compete in that event. Don't get it twisted. The best team in 5th group is deployed at any point. It's not the guys that are stateside in America winning a competition, right? So I didn't like that aspect of it. I can understand how they want to breed competence through competition. I get that. I was only interested in going and deploying. So we did well there, but that was the thought that came to my mind when I got that trophy. I'm not anything special. What about the guy who's in country right now doing the job? That dude and that team deserve this recognition, not us for playing a fucking game here. Let's go play the real game.
Talk to me about the mountaineering.
Yeah, so when I finally got my language score back and I go to the company that I'm assigned to, sit down with a sergeant major. And there are different teams within your company. There's a mountaineering team, there's a mobility team, there's a dive team, combat divers, and there's a halo team, free fall halo team. Being from South Louisiana, being very familiar with the water. I mean, I'd scuba dove, right, as growing up, right? I was a great swimmer. Combat dive school was a very difficult school to go to. It's probably the most difficult, physically demanding school that we go through as Green Berets, specifically for us. And I wanted to go. I wanted to be on a diet. And I articulated that to the sergeant major sitting across from me like we are today. You know, that's where I really expected talent management to come in. He's trying to understand who I am and what I'm capable of and, you know, where I might fit. Or at least I thought that. And he's listening to what I have to say. But you got to think, man, this guy hears this every fucking time from a guy trying to sell himself, right? And as I got older as an operator and became, you know, a kennel master, eventually basically a team sergeant, I can imagine, you know, what his job was. It's just to put you where he needs you and to understand that he's got all the faith in the world in you to be able to do whatever it is that you need to do from there. But we're going down the list, the doors, down a hallway. Each door is a team room. And he goes and puts his hand on each door like he's feeling the aura, the energy in the room.
Was he fucking with you or what's he doing?
I fucking still to this day don't really know. I think in his brain, he was just thinking Manning in each team. And like, what team needs a junior bro? That's all he gave a shit about.
But each time you're at a door, he's like,
yeah.
It's not this one.
Yeah, that was what he'd say. He's like, this isn't it. Could have been fucking with me. He was a phenomenal dude. Very smart guy. Had done a lot in Green Berets and continued to do a lot even after that. But we get to the dive team, and I'm like, here we go, baby. I almost went to open the door for him. And this isn't it.
Man.
Fuck, man. But, you know, kind of not heartbroken, but that's what I wanted to do. So we get to the mountaineering team door, and I'm like, not many doors left. One of these has got to open. And then he goes down to the handle and open. And I'm a guy who's been raised below sea level. And now I'm on a mountaineering team that's going to expect me to operate very well in the mountains, right? It was enjoyable, man. I get to that team. It was a pretty seasoned team, but it was a team that they were kind of breaking apart and putting new blood into. So immediately I get sent to mountaineering school to be a senior mountaineer. And then after that, I went to be a master mountaineer. So I just climbed the ranks very quickly there just because I was doing the right things, right time, right place, right attitude, working well with my teammates, and became a master mountaineer very quickly. So that is really only important because those skills are beneficial overseas. You know, think about mountain climbing, Iraq and Syria, not very many mountains. If I went to Afghanistan, for sure. But the hauling systems that you learn, raising, lowering systems, that's all good for urban combat as well. So very fortunate to have those skills. I absolutely love the mountains, fell in love with them. But it was not where I thought I was going to go, where I wanted to go, where I thought I'd be most value added. But it's where I ended up, man. So you make the best of it.
Well, let's switch gears and talk about the first dog that you trained with an e-collar or something about improper e-collar training.
Oh, man. So that's where, you know, I did my time as a team guy on an ODA. Very quickly became a senior guy within the company. just because, I mean, these guys are constantly moving. You're growing, becoming the senior guy. Now, what happens when you're a senior guy is you get billeted to go to SWCC, Special Warfare Center in schools, go back to the Q course and be an instructor to teach young Green Berets how to become Green Berets. I wanted no part of that. I wanted to deploy. So I knew that I was becoming senior. Up until that point, I'd done a couple JSETs, right? You're going to go, a JSET is where you basically go to another country and you train the special operations of that country, be a better special operating force, to go ahead and deploy for that country or deploy with us and do exactly what we need done with advance American interests in our area of responsibility. The problem with that was there's no combat involved in it, and I didn't want that at all anymore. Some of those trips turned into combat trips because we were able to leave those countries, go to another country, a neighboring country, and actually perform combat ops. But in doing that and becoming a senior guy, I realized that there were other supporting elements of 5th Group that were manned by Green Berets, the dog kennels being one of them. I knew that because I'd been on a deployment with a dog, and we were pushing the FLOT, forward line of troops in Syria, regaining ground back from ISIS. And one very common TTP or SOP, techniques and training, or tactics and procedures, TTPs and SOPs, standard operating procedures of the enemy, was they understood we were regaining ground. They understood that we would need to occupy a building with a roof in order to make it a place that we could medevac our wounded individuals from. Those are the stipulations. So they knew that we were going to occupy those buildings, and as a result, those buildings were laced with IEDs, improvised explosive devices. So not only did that dog go in ahead of us and clear all of that with EOD, there was a time where that dog went nuts on a wall in the building. Nobody thought anything about it other than the dog handler who was trusting his dog and doing the right thing. Trying to find out there were enemy fighters that had hidden themselves in the wall of that building. And their intent was for us to continue pushing and go through that building, and then they're going to come and ambush us from behind. And that dog uncovered that. And that was something incredible.
Can you walk me through that, by the way? I can picture that. The dog's alerting and I was like, what?
Yeah.
And then, they always teach us, trust your dog.
Yeah.
Got to trust them. How'd you guys finally figure out they were in there and throw a frag grenade in there? I mean, how'd that end?
Yeah. So it was tricky, man. It was really well thought out by, the enemy, where they knew that they were going to lose the ground. So they basically, this was an earthen wall, false wall, right? So they smeared the clay on there over the trap door to hide it completely. You could not really tell that there was a trap door there and that there was an actual space for individuals to be behind that trap door. But you had to imagine the odor that was emanating from there. Obviously, we can't smell it, but explosives, ammunition, man. Now, we'll get into this as far as passive alerts and aggressive alerts, what that means for us. But when a dog's losing his mind, he's not smelling a bomb.
Right.
He wants to bite somebody, right? And I didn't know what trusting your dog meant. I didn't know any of that. Looking back on it now, I understand that concept. But if that dog wouldn't have been there and done that, we would have been ambushed from behind where we did not expect the enemy to be coming from because we'd already cleared that ground, right? So the dog is losing his mind. We end up finding the trap door and absolutely blowing it because we don't know what's behind there, evacuating everything, blowing it, and then finding the bodies that are back there.
Pretty sneaky, huh?
They're just, listen, man, they don't doom scroll on their phones all day like Americans. The only thing that occupies their mind is coming up with ways to kill us. And there are tricks that I'll kind of talk about a little later on. We'll get into the dog part of it. That were phenomenal. Really intelligent. They're not stupid people, right? They may not be educated, but they're not stupid. All of their energy and focus goes into figuring out ways to kill you. They're probably not thinking about their wives and kids back home. Many of them don't have that. They're not thinking about the jobs that they may get after the military. They're not thinking about any of this stuff. All they're thinking about is staying alive and ending as many of you as possible. So it's a very sophisticated enemy that we're fighting. It's one that's incredibly motivated, and they're using what they have at their disposal to try and kill as many of us, maim, destroy as many of us as possible. So,
well, that dog saved your ass, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's stuff that happens all the time, We'll get into it with some more dog stuff, but that was my first interaction with a dog over there. I kind of had heard that we had dogs. I didn't really know what they did. I wasn't concerned about it. I wasn't worried about it. I wasn't focused on it. I was focused on being the best 18 Bravo that I could be. And the 18 Bravo's job, man, is really to make sure weapons are functioning properly and to be able to train my guys on tactic, and my partner force too. So I just didn't focus on the dog. But coming back from that deployment, being a senior guy now with experience, right? I know that it's a matter of time before I get called to go to the schoolhouse, and I don't want to do that whatsoever. So I made the decision to go and be proactive. Again, in the beginning of this interview, I said the one thing I would encourage individuals to do if they're going to join the military is be very proactive. Plan out what they want to do and go make it happen, because no one's going to make it happen but you, you know. I went down to the kennels, and I started talking to those guys about what they were looking for in a dog handler, if they needed dog handlers.
And you had referred to it offline as your combat card, a way to stay in the fight. Yeah, man, it's funny. We joke around about these dogs. We call them combat tickets. That's your ticket to combat, because a dog's never going to go on a J set. They don't need a dog handler. They don't need that combat asset in a country that's not at war, training dudes who will probably never fight a war. The only reason that we're there, the only reason that they don't get attacked is because we're there training them. People are scared of America, so they'll leave that country alone. So again, yeah, these dogs are combat tickets. You're a dog handler. You're going to go and be utilized for exactly what I wanted to be utilized for, was going to combat, closing with and destroying the enemies of the United States. So yeah, these I thought that it was a pretty good place to be, because again, I'd always had dogs. I'd always considered myself a dog guy. Growing up, training and working with hunting dogs was very, very beneficial for me to move into that role, because I understood enough about dog psychology. Right? I understood enough about how to manipulate the mind of the animal to think that what he's doing is the most fun thing in the world, while also accomplishing my objectives. Because dogs don't have cognitive reasoning capabilities. They don't understand the bigger picture, right? They don't understand the full mission. They just understand fun and know it's not fun, right? So make it fun. Make finding a bomb really fun. Make finding a human really fun, right? Constantly manipulating and outsmarting that dog to reach your end goals, while also making him think that it's the most fun thing in the world to do. I understood how to do that with hunting dogs. That transitioned very well for me into my first dog and becoming a dog handler. So I went to the dog kennels, talked to the guys. He said, yeah, we're always looking for guys that'll do it. You know, we need senior guys, because there you're coming from a team and now you're a singleton, right? You are taking care of, you've got to maintain all of your proficiency as a special forces guy daily by yourself. But now you know, shoot, move, communicate, all that stuff. But now you've got this dog that you've got to train every single day to make sure that he's extremely capable and the best that he can be to be the best combat asset available, right? So you need a senior guy who's very proactive, who's mature enough to understand that he's in control of his work schedule, right? If you have the right guys that are doing that, it's beautiful. But if you got guys that are going there to just not work, it's not going to work out, because that dog needs to be worked. Mm-hmm. You know, he's got to be maintained. He's got to be trained. He's got to be exercised. He's got to be worked. So you need a very motivated individual there that's there for the right reasons. And that's why I wanted to go and do it. So I get there. It's really just a conversation you have with the kennel master, who was a phenomenal guy. Dog handler, same path that I ended up taking. Team guy, dog handler. Did a lot of great things as a dog handler on deployments, and then just learned, but also always a leader of men. I mean, this guy was one of the best leaders that I had, because he always put us first, and he would go to bat for us every single chance he got. His job was to make sure that he dealt with the bureaucracy so that we could fucking train, and it never touched us. To his own detriment often. You know, the guy would get threatened by leadership all the time. He didn't care. He knew, he understood the asset he controlled, and he was going to make sure that as many Green Berets got to experience that asset as possible. That was his goal. So what happens with us when you show up there as a new guy is get some OJT, some on-the-job training. We had some senior dudes there that done a lot of stuff, a lot of good stuff with dogs. And I'll never forget, man, going out to a training venue and a guy telling me, go pull that dog out of the crate, bring him in here. Are you in that unit yet at this point? Or you're
in
just
the
kind
kennel?
of testing it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of well, no, at that point they had told me, yes, we're going to take you. Okay. That has got to be a conversation they have with your leadership, though. Before that, I had just finished a direct action shooting course. I should probably back up and explain that. That was another reason why I wanted to become a dog handler. So I was really good at shooting. I'm not tooting my own horn at all, man. It just always came naturally to me. I got sent to this direct action course that was the most fun I've ever had in the Army. It was about 2 months long, every single day. And again, it taught you through progression, breaching, and then room clearing. So you're doing direct action DA housework in this course. And this is a course that was built by Delta Force for us. it's kind of like part of what they do in OTC, operator training course. But it was a lot of their direct action SOPs and TTPs. So every day, man, you're getting tested. And if you fail that shooting test, you're gone. So the stress level was astronomical. And guys were cracking. Guys would fail out every single day. It was rough to see seasoned Green Berets with a ton of combat experience who just couldn't do that part of the job. Because again, we're practicing to put rounds in a thumbnail size so that under stress we can put them in a fist size. All of our enemy we just assume has body armor on. So now shooting like most people do, just center mass is not good enough. You got to shoot this death triangle right here, or the juice box. Called the juice box. When you hit it, it squirts like a little juice box. Above body armor, below body armor. Femurs are always, femurs are the pelvis. Great place to shoot someone, get them down. But it was a very precision-driven course. You had to be very, very accurate with your shots because you're shooting within a meter of friendlies. In a little room, you're going in there and you are conducting extreme violence very quickly and very rapidly. And for us, man, I think probably one of the greatest bits of wisdom that was given to me was a cadre who was up on the catwalk and said, listen, let your trigger finger express the hate in your heart that your feet want to express. Don't run through the house. Move methodically, move quickly but methodically. Your rate of fire needs to express your violence of action, not you running through the house like a fucking jackass. And that's important to understand. Get out of your sights. Stop looking through a toilet paper tube. Be very situationally aware because there's threats, there's non-threats there every single day, every single room you come into. There's role players. Obviously, not when we're using live ammo, but when we're using simunition rounds, man, it's a lot. That's a lot, and you get really good at slowing down, taking everything in, but making decisions very, very quickly and accurately. Again. The best course I think I've ever been to in the military. It's called Sephardic. It wasn't the most difficult course because I was a good shooter. And because of that, I wasn't stressed out. So I was able to just have a fucking blast. I had a great time there. And you're working with dudes just like yourself again, man, but they're really good marks. So I had just finished that course, and within every group, every special forces group, there's a direct action element called the CRIF or the CIF. Who specialize in direct action, hostage rescue. The problem with that is they don't often get to do that overseas because your Tier 1, 6, SEAL Team 6, DevGru, or CAG is going to fall in on those missions. We're there in the chance that they can't get there in time, which is highly unlikely, but we still have to have that capability. So unfortunately, some of the highest trained Green Berets in each group very often get utilized very little, right? And I knew that after graduating that course, I was slated to go there, and I didn't want to go there. I loved the mission. I loved the idea of it. They just weren't getting utilized,
And then you'd be back in that role of teacher that you were trying to avoid.
Teacher, or you're just staging to do a job that you never get to do. And I wasn't interested in doing that. It's a young man's game. You got to get your licks in while you can. So with that understanding, as well as now I'm super senior, I may go to SWIC, or I'm definitely going here. I want to keep going to combat. And if I can, I'm constantly trying to, every school that I wanted to go to was a school that would give me more tools for combat, right? Shooting schools, mortar courses, anything like that. I had to go to the mountaineering stuff because I was on a mountaineering team. But going to the dogs, becoming a dog handler was really, really appealing to me because that guy is an extreme asset, incredible asset. So again, that's another reason why I wanted to go down there. But anyway, I get accepted at the dog kennels. And I'm learning from some of these senior guys, and he sends me out there to get this really, he's an asshole. He's a spare dog. Most spares get underworked, overstimulated. I call him an asshole. I think every dog's you can work with. It just depends on how good of a trainer you are, right? I think too many people just use that excuse, the dog's an asshole. I had a lot of dogs that were assholes that were phenomenal dogs when you understood what they needed to become phenomenal dogs, I think it's laziness as a trainer when you just say stuff. He's just an asshole. He's going to be that way forever. Why don't we break it down and see what it takes to get this dog to operate? Because he's a major asset. Anyway, I go to pull this dog out, and he tries to eat my face off.
But to be clear, though, this dog actually was an asshole.
This dog was an asshole.
Yeah, and they probably selected a new guy. He wants to be in canine. Send him over there.
Yeah, absolutely. They wanted me to get bit. They were trying to get me to get bit because it's just like a fist fight, man. You're not going to be a good fighter if you're not comfortable getting punched in the fucking face. That's just what it is. You're never going to go into a fist fight and be successful if you're constantly trying to, try not to get hit. But what happens when you do get hit? It's like Mike Tyson says, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the fucking mouth, you know? You have to anticipate that. And in our training, especially combatives, we would choke each other out so we knew what it felt like to black out. You know, we would train like we fight. The more you sweat in training, the less you're going to bleed in combat. That was a lesson that drilled into it. But again, taking that same mindset of all of us have as dog handlers, you're going to get bit. That's just what it is, you know. And a lot of these guys, listen, you got to understand, no one's selected to go be a dog handler. You get told to go there because they need bodies, right? We had guys show up there that were terrified of dogs. They'd go into the kennel and they'd run away. They'd run out. They're scared of dogs. They're not going to be dog handlers. Okay, let's get another guy in here. They wanted me to get bit so I can get it over with. And then just be okay getting bit. Understand it's not that bad. Sure, might probably get some stitches and you're going to have to keep it clean. But that was all that was about. I go over there. I go to take him out, and man, he freaks out. I don't know dogs like this. I know hunting dogs. None of these dogs are going to eat your face off, right? Guy comes out. I come back in. I say, is there a way to get this dude out of the kennel without getting eaten alive? And they go, no, what are you talking about? He's fine. You know, go back out there and get him. I'll go back out there. Here's what it is. Open it. Boom, the dog nukes me. I get a fucking leash on him, choke him up, and literally drag him there, choke him arm's length away from me so he doesn't eat me, and hand him to the dude. And they all laugh. They have a good laugh. They're like, you okay? I'm like, yeah, it'll be all right. They're like, yeah, we'll glue it up. You'll be fine. But here's the lesson. Give that dog a ball. Set him up. Completely different dog, you know? They said this dog knows when you're scared. This dog knows when you're excited. This dog knows when you're sad. He knows things about you before you even understand that you're thinking them, right? That you're expressing that to the dog. So you got to start thinking like a dog if you're going to be a dog handler. And that was pivotal for me. Get into the mind of the dog. Stop looking at problems like and trying to solve them as a human. Especially with dogs, you got to understand how the dog's thinking about things. Look at the world through his eyes. And that was incredibly beneficial for me as a new dog handler. So fast forward, yeah, man, I go to my dog course, right, where you go and get a dog and then you train with that dog. It's the same one the Rangers had gone to because they were Special Forces and Rangers in the same class. First dog I got was a blonde, super ugly, blonde Mal, kind of older. In my opinion, he was probably just a sport dog in Europe. That was somebody's pet that could do all the sport work. They probably fell in on hard times and needed to move him, so they sold him. I come from Hungary. He was just like a pet, you know, who could fuck you up, just not with intent. You know, he was doing it because he was a sport dog. I get this dog, and because of my knowledge and understanding of dogs, and the e-collar, you know, you're not ready for an e-collar. And that was always a tool that I'd utilize to communicate with dogs. It was never a punishing device. It was always a communicatory device between me and my dogs. And that's exactly what how I intended to utilize it with this dog. So even though I was told, you better not have an e-collar, like you shouldn't even know what an e-collar is at this point by the civilians at this school, which, let's be honest, you're not going to be in fucking Syria a month after I graduate. I am, so you can fuck off. I e-collar conditioned that dog immediately. That helped me out tremendously in the course. I had great control over this dog, but the dog was so smart and so good, and I was so stupid as a dog handler, meaning I hadn't deployed to combat with a dog yet, that I really fed my ego, is what it was. I thought it was going to be really cool to have a very obedient push-button dog. Look at what this dog can climb ladders, go on a ladder between buildings. I can put him on top of this Humvee and go 500 yards the other way. He's not going to move. You know, I can recall this dog anywhere. He's going to come to me. I mean, I taught him the stupid walk between your legs because I saw that on a video. Worst thing in the world to do, man. You don't want a dog between your legs. I taught him all this cool stuff. I taught him how to low crawl with me just because I thought maybe if we needed a low crawl, you know, the dog needed to be down too. We're trying to extend his capabilities. I made that dog extremely obedient and extremely handler dependent, right? And that was a mistake that I never made again with a dog that you're going to bring to combat, you know.
Did you end up bringing that dog to combat?
I did. So we deployed a month after I graduated.
What's the dog's name, by the way?
Ali.
Ali?
Like Muhammad Ali.
Okay.
Let me tell you something, man. You can't deploy to a Muslim country with a dog named Ali, right? They look at dogs as unclean animals over there. They definitely don't want you naming the dog a Muslim name. I didn't name him that. That's just the name I got with him, right? And these are all stupid names, Bosco.
Yeah.
All of the dumb names that they give them, I found out later, we're just naming designations. How many RICOs have been in law enforcement?
Lord have mercy.
Yeah, dude.
They're all assholes. I don't know why the RICOs.
But it's just their naming convention, right? Anyway, so this dog was one of the A groups, Ali. Great dog. You need a dog. We needed a dog there that was obedient to a certain extent. But obedience to odor, explosive odor, and obedience to man odor should always supersede obedience to handler. And my dog was more obedient to me than anything else because I had done that. I had taught him that was what we needed him to be.
Plus, with his sport background, who knows? Yeah.
And he wasn't a titled dog. They would have told you that up front if he was titled. But I know that he had a lot of obedience built in. Very user-friendly dog, not an asshole. User-friendly. Wanted to work with you, which is good. But I learned very quickly with explosives. You want to be as far away from that shit as humanly possible. Mm-hmm. So you can't have a Velcro dog who's constantly coming back to you and checking in with you. Is this what I need to do? Is this right? Is this the right answer? I really fucked that up. And I learned. But the first deployment I went on with that dog was pretty eye-opening. It's pretty crazy, but our FOB, a forward operating base in Syria on that trip, there were cluster bombs all over this Russian munitions were dropped. They're little balls, and some of them had not detonated when they were dropped, right? So as we're falling in on this really shitty location, which happens all the time, we'll start building up our capabilities, fortifying it, making sure that we can defend it properly. But part of that is moving debris out of the way and building certain things that we need to build. I was walking this dog one day, just going on a walk to break him, and he just fucking locks up. And I'm thinking to myself, what's going on? There were cluster munitions all over them. I didn't know that. That was not briefed to me. I don't think a lot of people knew that, but that's some pretty important information when you have unexploded ordnances in a place that you're living and rubble that you're climbing on top of, putting training aids in. If I'm putting a training aid next to a real bomb, I mean, it's pretty terrible if I go and I'm bumping and I blow myself up. A dog was telling me there's something there. How does he know if it's... He can't tell me. He can't speak English. He can't tell me, oh, there's a real bomb there too, dummy. Stay away from it. But this dog locks up on odor, and I did not expect that to happen, right? So I pull him off of it. He goes back to it. I reward him, raise him up, bring him back, and I immediately go to EOD and say, man, come check this place out. Because with us, as a dog handler, the number one asset at your disposal other than your dog is your explosive ordnance disposal guy. They've got all the tools necessary to, when you find a bomb, now they can do whatever it is they need to do with it. It's very important when we get into country, and this was taught to me by senior guys. You go and you find the EOD guy where you are, and you get host nation odor that has been taken off of targets, that has been found already. Protocol your dog on that. So I'd done that. I'd worked with EOD to that capacity at least. We hadn't even gone on missions yet. But I knew enough to go to them, seek them out, make friends with them. A good EOD guy is also going to understand, man, we're not competing for work. He's going to want that dog in front of him too. It's the younger ones that don't really understand that think that, no, you need EOD. Fuck, this dog is trying to take my job. Listen, buddy, let the dog go die so you don't have to. That's his job. If I lose that dog tomorrow, it's fine. Send me another dog. And we're Charlie Mike and we're continuing mission. That was something that you see oftentimes too. These guys get attached to their dogs, and that's a huge mistake. Dog is a tool, man. If he dies, not great, but better than me dying, better than the EOD guy dying, better than an assaulter. That's their job. That's their purpose there, to put themselves in harm's way so that we don't have to. But anyway, I'd protocoled him on host nation odor. That's very important because, yes, it's comprised of similar components, but it's a little different because they're coming from other countries, other parts of the world. Don't only just train your dog on military-grade explosives. Get some of that host nation stuff, man. ANFO, ammonium nitrate and fuel. If a dog's never really come into an odor picture that big where it's 10 or 12 55-gallon drums of that stuff, it looks a little different than it looks when he's just finding little pieces of C4 or det cord. You know what I mean? So train realistically. Train how you fight. Train how you expect to fight. And the only way you're going to know that as a new guy is by listening and humbling yourself and asking questions from guys that have been there before you. So that was pivotal. But yeah, man, there's little cluster munitions all over where we're sleeping and eating and working out all day. So we ended up clearing out the entire place of all these cluster munitions. It took like a week.
Using the dog, actually?
Using the dog and EOD. They were all over the place, which is good because we had some time to burn. We're acclimating the dog at that point, really, to country.
Getting some reps in?
Getting some reps in. That was really good for him. But again, always trust your dog. If I'd have been that guy that's like, there's absolutely nothing there.
Yeah,
why would there
kick
be?
It like, it's nothing, it's a rock.
Yeah. Just trust your dog.
But I'm assuming you were kind of alluding to the fact that this dog is maybe a little less desirable than? Did you have any failures or anything that just sound like a softer dog?
Yeah. Some dogs bite with intent. What I mean by that is it's fun for them to hurt you. Mm-hmm. Those are nice dogs to have. This dog was biting out of obedience. He was biting because I told him to do it. We went on a mission with this dog, and it's a call out. I'm not going to get into our SOPs and TTPs. I'm not going to give the enemy that luxury, but on a call out, we're trying to get people out of a building, make ourselves a lot safer before we go. Simple as that. Part of that is they come out and we're talking to them. They need to show themselves and lift up their shirts, take their clothes off if necessary, make sure there's no suicide belts, suicide vests on them. And then we take them and we puck them, person under control, take them to another echelon of security, and we start breaking them down until they're detainees, essentially. One of our partner force guys, it's the wintertime in Syria. It's nothing like America, but these guys who live in the desert, it's cold. This kid has a duster on, like a meet me at noon in front of the saloon, like an old Western duster. We're going to have a shootout. That's what he's wearing, big black duster. And this is at nighttime, so we have lights that we're shining.
And who is it that has this? The partner force guy?
Partner force guy, okay. A Syrian guy that we're working with. And again, we're going to have that guy go put hands on the guy before Americans will. The guy takes off. Person that we're trying to detain takes off running. He sees this Syrian soldier coming to him with the duster.
Why?
I have no idea why he thought he was going to get away. Ignorance, maybe. He never.
Okay, but I mean, it wasn't the duster that made him go like, "Oh, this guy's got a bomb on."
No, but the duster comes into play with the dog,
All right.
So, dream scenario for any dog deployment. You got this one jackass who's running out in the desert.
Right. Just straight bite.
Clean, man.
Yeah.
Clean. I was so excited, probably a little too excited. Send the dog. And the guy with the duster
is running too.
Is running towards the guy.
Mm-hmm.
You get in the way of the dog. You got this stupid duster on. The dog launches, beautiful, right? Does everything we tell him to do in training. Center punches the guy, grabs the duster, and this Syrian freaks out. And I'm running behind the dog.
And again, people following along. Your dog's now bit your partner force guy.
Yes,
because he's got the big duster on. And just
big
target
duster.
locked on
Equipment fixation, unfortunately, right?
No problem.
So the guy slips his duster, and my dog is thrashing the piss out of this duster. And in the meantime, the guy's like, you have to build credibility for yourself as a dog handler. Everybody knows I'm a great Green Beret. They want me with them on missions and targets, not only for the dog, but because at the end of the day, not every problem's a dog problem. I'll put that dog in the truck in a heartbeat and go be a Green Beret. But again, we do have this asset that if we need it, we can use it. But a dog's reputation is also my reputation. A dog is a reflection of his handler. Say that again. A dog is a reflection of his handler. A great dog probably got a good handler. Or is it
the other way? The handler is a reflection of his dog.
Oh, it's both.
Right.
This situation, the dog was reflecting my training imperfections, right? Through no fault of my own. I'd never been able to
get smoked the wrong dude.
Smoked the wrong dude, but then he took the equipment and didn't spit the equipment. And at least I would have been thrilled if he would have spit the duster and bit the Syrian guy that we were actually working with, although that's not ideal.
Just shows the intent that you want to see.
As a dog handler, that's something you want to see. So I knew we had some work to do. We ended up coming back. We got the retard who was running through the desert, and it was not going anywhere. But that would have been a really good first bite for that dog. Fast forward about a week of me really working with this dog on equipment neutralization. I've got this half a man dummy that, it's an armless dummy. Mm-hmm. Stands on a pedestal. You hit it, and I'm doing I'm just doing a workout. My dog is in the down, and it's another one of these long down scenarios where I'll put him 300 yards away if I have the ability to. He was only about 100 yards away at this point. In the shade, just chill out here. I'm going to do a workout. So I'm doing what I'm doing on this dummy, and this dog, something blows past me, knocks me to the ground, gets my dog. He had seen me beating on this dummy with no arms, no equipment, and body bites this guy. This dummy, right? Still not a human being, but now we're starting to get somewhere.
That's a good sign.
But it's when I realized that, and this dog wants to be a member of our team. He's really good when he thinks that he's helping me, when he thinks that he's making me happy. So instead of always just letting the dog fight the guy, I started working with him and fighting the guy too. And that just flipped the switch in the dog's brain. Daddy's doing this. It's okay. It's okay to get the guy. I would have, I'd let the dog, put him in a muzzle, let the dog watch. And me and a buddy would not a buddy, but a Syrian. I'd never do this with Americans. We'd start sparring essentially. And then the dog would come in with the muzzle. And the guy would start shedding equipment. And the dog was ignoring equipment more and more and more and just going after the same thing that I wanted, which was the man. So eventually the dog ended up becoming a pretty good dog.
Good.
Actually good enough for me to give to another guy, take a problem dog, and get him ready.
Did Ali ever bite a guy named Ali?
No. No, he, one thing that I like to do over there is these people smell different than we do. They obviously look different than we do, but at night, really going off a smell. They don't eat the same things we do. They smell differently. Fear scent is a little different than, aggression or adrenaline. The dog was keying into all this stuff, right? They were terrified of dogs there. Even our partner force was terrified of my dog. Every time they'd come around, I'd start pinching the dog, pulling out hair, agitating him in their presence. And he started associating that little bit of discomfort and pain with them. And it made him pretty angry at them. He was never going to be angry at me. You can only do that with the right dog. Some dogs would be like, you're my huckleberry. You want to pinch me? I'm going to bite you. This dog knew better. And he was really starting to associate that pain with those people, which I think really helped him come alive as a dog that was fully encompassing, a dog that could do it all. Another mission that we went on, in our area of responsibility, what was happening was there were these individuals that were fleeing from one area to another of safety. We had ISR up in the air that was looking over our area of responsibility. And I was in the tactical command center, essentially with all the monitors one night when the call comes in that there's a strange vehicle convoy that's going across the very north part of our AOR. So we put eyes on it with ISR. And man, it was, can't remember the actual number of vehicles, but it was a substantial number of vehicles all in a very single file line. And they were following each other. They were bumper to bumper, man, but there were no headlights on. Mm-hmm. Okay. And this was at night. And they were moving very quickly. And it was like a big snake, man. They were just in each other's tire tracks. So we say, I mean, that's just not common. What you got to understand, though, is ISIS, when they came to power and the Iraqi army ran away, they took all of the equipment from the Iraqis, night vision goggles, machine guns, all the same stuff, a lot of the same stuff that we have. So now we're fighting an enemy that's got some of our same capabilities, right? So now we have to understand that going and fighting at night, we don't really have the upper hand. Just made us get better at what we do. But it was clearly evident to me that these guys were driving unannounced. They were driving using night vision.
No other way, right?
No other way, and they didn't want to draw attention to themselves with lights. So what it ended up being was a high-value target, like escort, essentially, where they have fighters in the front, they have fighters in the back, and then they have HVT in the middle. And if you come into contact, one element's going to split off with HVT and evade, and the other element's going to stand and fight to give them enough time to get away. So there's a team that launches on that. We stay back for QRF, Quick Reaction Force. They come into contact with them with their Syrian counterparts, and a gunfight ensues. They did split off. We ended up catching everybody in the convoy except for maybe 2 trucks of fighters that actually just took off because they knew they were going to lose. But in the process, there were probably 12 to 15 EKIA, enemy killed in action. When they start taking contact, QRF launches, essentially. So I go from hearing it on the radio, getting in trucks, and now we're going, right? It's chaotic. You've got to be able to deconflict with the elements on the ground when you're heading into that type of situation to know where they are, who the good guys are, so that we make sure that we're not going to, we can help them as far as maneuvering goes, either trap an element, help them to continue fighting with that element, however we're going to skin it when we get there. But it's pretty chaotic, so we're working all that on the radio. There's artillery that's starting to go off in the distance. It's a flat desert, so you can see the lights of the artillery. I'll never forget, I had a guy in the truck who was pretty worried about it, pretty scared. The QRF element was part of the B team, right? Same B team that we have stateside, we have over there. Some of those individuals were not Green Berets. They were truck drivers, refuelers. But we train them up to get to a certain point where they can come out and they can assist us if necessary. I'll never forget that kid in the back was pretty terrified, and a captain. And I'll give it to him, man, because officers are not really known for their experience. This guy was pretty experienced. He looks at him and says, man, listen, don't worry. The first rounds are never that accurate. And I don't think it helped the kid sleep any better that night, but it got him through that at least. So again, artillery is something they have access to. They may not know how to use it as well as we do, but you just have to understand that, I guess, that concept. We're now fighting against the same weapon systems that we utilize to fight against them with. And that's not ever a fun thing. So we get to location finally. The firefight has pretty much subdued. There's some last, shots that are going off, but the SF team that was in contact did a really good job of suppressing and killing the enemy. What we didn't know, right? We knew this from intelligence, right? When any of these fighters have an HVT, most of these fighters are going to have suicide belts or suicide vests. If they think that they're going to die, they're going to get as close to you as possible and clack off. They can't kill you with their gun. They're going to try to kill you with, the bomb that's on their body. Like I said, 12 to 15 enemy out there, and we anticipated all of them having suicide belts on. So you got to go clear these bodies, right?
And they may not all be dead. They might be pretending to be dead or just wounded.
Yes, wounded. A lot of these suicide belts have switches on them, right?
Like timers?
Mercury switches or timers. Right? If you're laying down, right, and that mercury switch is engaged when you turn it on, when you sit the guy up and that mercury bubble, that's going to blow it up. So you don't really want to, you have to render the body safe before you take the bodies off the battlefield. And we'll get into that. But we show up and Green Berets are all fine. We clear through the kill zone, essentially. And the way that we do that is one element clears through and then another element clears through this way, with your limit of advance, right? And then you can go back and you're going to get biometrics on these bodies, right? Fingerprints and retinal scans if possible, just to make sure they're not in any of our databases, as known terrorists or anything. It's just, it helps us build more intelligence on the area and on the individual. So the plan was to try to utilize the dog to work him downwind of the bodies to see if he would indicate as to whether or not there were explosives on the body. Oh, it briefs well, but he's also a bite dog who now is wanting to bite people. Again, I will sacrifice this dog before any American all day long. My plan was if he was going to bite the guy, right, I'm going to work him close enough. There was zero wind, man. It was super still. I'm going to have to work him close enough to see if he's going to indicate. This is all through night vision, right? It's much more difficult. I think you can run a dog in the daytime, go run him under nods, right? You have got to be intimately familiar with your dog's change of behavior and your dog in general to really pick up on any of that. Because a good dog handler never lets his dog final in combat. If your dog works to odor and finals, it may be the last time he does it because most of the time they're booby trap pressure plates, tripwires, that type of deal.
And for the folks listening, final meaning a final indication, meaning they found source, meaning by the time they've given you that full final indication, you're standing on it. Whether that's a guy with a bomb or a guy with a gun or just a bomb by itself.
Well, it should just be bombs or a guy with a bomb. If it's a guy by himself, that dog better be raising hell to try and eat him if I'm not allowing him to get to him. And that becomes important, I mean, for the false wall incident. If that dog is just going to give you a silent indication, how do I know if it's a bomb or a person? I don't want to.
See, some of our police dogs get slick, and in training, we would look for a final indication on the man, and then they'd get blue-balled on a bite, and then they'd learn to go quiet and try to almost hide their indication so that hopefully they could dive into the bushes and bite the guy without giving you a clue. So, but there would be subtle clues, like they can't hide certain things as much as they try to suppress it. And so that's what I mean as well, because we would be teaching those tactics, like read your dog so that you can hopefully identify that there's a guy 30, 40, 50, 100 yards away before the dog dives in the bushes and eats someone, because maybe it's at that point they pop a round off. So that's what I was referring to.
No, you're right, man. And some of our dogs were smart enough as they aged to do that. But we knew that too. So in training, if the dog gives an aggressive response to a man, give him the bite. Give him the bite, give him the bite. Again, we're not getting sued by bad bites in Syria or Iraq. You guys are under
different rules of engagement.
Intense scrutiny.
But I don't want to take you away from...
No, I know.
So we're there, it's night vision, it's dark out, and you got to clear these bodies for explosives, basically.
I need to try to at least identify whether or not they have explosives on them. So I'm working the dog. He's pulling to man. I know that he's pulling to man.
Right. So that's tricky, right?
It's tricky because he also could be pulling to odor. Could be pulling a source.
Meaning a bomb, which he thinks is just a toy, basically.
Well, a bomb, because he's trying, again, in training, we want them to get as close to source as possible and then final. Because if we're in a building or a room or something and I don't see the dog gets away from me and I turn a corner, now the dog's sitting, where is this bomb? He needs to be staring at source. A lot of that comes into play on actions on, like after the hit goes down, and we're rummaging through there for SSE, sensitive site exploitation, trying to find documents, any type of intelligence, but the dog can also be finding hand grenades. He can be finding little things that may have been missed during the initial clear of human beings.
But you're trying to work this dog out there.
Trying to work him, man.
You're trying to figure out.
He's pulling. I'm trying to determine if he's pulling
Is this man
the
or bomb?
or man, because he sees the body.
Yeah.
Now, he's never seen a body quite that mutilated. They were shooting these dudes with machine guns and 40 Mike grenade launchers. And some of these bodies had sympathetic detonations. So there was a high likelihood that, there were explosives on these guys, because you hit a guy's explosive belt, it's going to explode or vest. So he's pulling, and I'm trying to let him get as close to it without touching it as possible. And then he comes into contact with one of the bodies, and it's okay because he's not biting it, ravaging it, right? But what I hear is licking. The dog was doing what dogs do with meat. So very quickly, I pulled the dog off. He was not interested in the bomb that was on the guy. He wasn't interested in biting the guy. It was basically ground meat that the dog was trying to eat, So again, not every problem is a dog problem. I had to pull the dog off. I gave you my best shot, man. I tried all the tricks that I thought I could do. I did put that dog on a drop hide, which is something that I do all the time. I always have a drop aid on me, which is a piece of explosives that I carry on me. I need to get the dog's mind right, do a drop aid. He finds the bomb, boom, it's a big game. Now he's in the right mindset to go and look for explosives. I even tried that. The dog wanted nothing to do with it.
That's a strange, from a training perspective. I don't know how you duplicate that in a training environment. Dead bodies.
You could put some ground meat on
It's
somebody.
just funky, man.
It's just something that I didn't train for because I never thought I'd experience it like that. You know what I mean?
Our guy, Justin Rigney, one of our trainers and friends, and he talks about that, being able to switch gears.
Yeah.
From
Very
bite
important.
work to odor detection, back to bite work, back to odor detection. Some people give him a hard time, but this would be one of those instances where, you're like, hey, I know you want to do bite work, or that's what you're thinking, or maybe you want to eat this guy's whatever. No. We're doing bomb work right now.
Yeah, man. Dude, first off, Justin Rigney, stud. The guy knows what the hell he's doing. People should listen to him. Secondly, we do transitions. Every day we work these. Not every day do they get a bite, but very often would they get the opportunity to maybe bite, get them in that mindset, and then I want you to transition to find a bomb. Yeah. I can kill a person without the dog. I cannot find a bomb with the dog. Mm-hmm. So really, man, we would do bite work maybe once a month for these dogs. We do a bunch of tugging and make sure their jaw muscles are strong and staying in shape, but we would do explosive detection every single day. So transitions were huge. This certain scenario we'd never trained for. So, hats off to the EOD guy. He said, hey, man, I got you. I tried. No worries. I felt like a failure. Felt like I had now put an American soldier in unnecessary harm, right? But the EOD guy was a stud, man. He was an older guy. He was actually a National Guardsman. And he rendered each one of those bodies safe. So it was a learning, it was just one of those things that happens that's kind of out of the norm. It's not a sexy story. But for me, the stories that really hit home the most are the ones that you learn the most, because we're constantly trying to better ourselves.
Well, when we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we got a handful more stories. They get better the longer you stick around. So stay tuned for that. We'll be back in just a moment.
This podcast is sponsored by DIYcanine.com, where we help you train your dog from zero to hero. We'll see you in the courses.
All right, folks, we're back from the break. Mr. Thanos is hanging out, and I want to get right back into Syria and finish up there, and we can jump right into a story about some smugglers.
Yeah. So in that part of the country, they had a lot of smugglers that were coming through. They were trying to smuggle, not really humans, not fighters, but they were smuggling equipment. So they were trying to smuggle weapons and ammunition through our area responsibility. And it became our responsibility to intercept those smugglers who were disguised as just like long-distance truckers, right? In the desert out there are very few paved roads, but the desert is so packed, you can go overland in an 18-wheel, as crazy as that sounds. And it happened all the time. What they were really, you see a lot of water trucks out there. So you got to haul water everywhere out there. One very common tool of theirs was take a water truck, and when you look, it's just a big tank truck. When you pop the lid and you look in there, you see water. But all that is a little inset, right? Mm-hmm. That's about the size of a 55-gallon drum. It goes all the way to the bottom, but it's just a tube. You were to pull that out, the rest of that whole tank is just packed with guns and ammunition. It's kind of what we were finding. But there's so many of them, right? So these dogs are not like MP dogs that are going to sit on a gate and smell trucks that are coming in and out. It's just not going to happen. But we need to be able to search vehicles as well, and search vehicles at night. So we've got really effective and efficient at searching these vehicles. It was difficult for this to happen because weapons and ammunition, the dog's constantly around. He's almost overwhelmed with that odor at all times, and he ignores it because it's not something that we've taught him to go and look for. And when I originally got asked if the dog could do it, I said no. I was just being honest. I just said no. I mean, if you tell the dog to go and look in that truck full of our equipment right now for a bomb, other than if we had explosives on our kit, right, he would not final on weapons or ammunition. So it was something we really had to work with the dog to do. And then, we pull those individuals aside and we start questioning them. That questioning can lead to a lot of a lot more intelligence that can work for follow-on missions. And it's just a way that we're producing work for ourselves if maybe work was slow. But a funny story, man. These guys, so same scenario. There's a couple of vehicles kind of rolling through in a little convoy. They're all Hilux trucks, stuff like that. And that just reminded me of the low-vis operation that I did want to tell you about also. I'll tell you about it after this. But we halt the vehicles. I always want to work the dog downwind of them, as far away from it as I possibly can, in case this is a vehicle-borne ID, a VBID that can really detonate. We strip the guys of everything that's on them, cell phones, pagers, anything that could be used as a detonating device, right? If they're a good distance back and now we're up there searching their vehicles, they can just go ahead and detonate and kill us all. So there's a method to all of that madness, right? And then we're going dark on comms, right? We're not using radios to talk because HF frequencies can sometimes trigger explosives, and that happens on objective oftentimes too. If that is something that is a danger to us, then we'll go black on comms and we'll have to communicate hand and arm signals and just voice, right? That can be difficult on a big objective, but it's got to happen sometimes. So just don't get pigeonholed in doing things one way. There's a bunch of different ways to skin a cat. Anyway, we get to this convoy and we're searching the way we always do. And man, my dog is pulling hard to this truck. Now, if it's a lot of odor, right? If it's a massive amount of odor, the dog I can see his change behavior, and he'll normally final a decent distance away because he's getting used to me not letting him go up to source. But it's also the amount of odor. The amount of odor that he's comfortable finaling on could be a distance away from it because it's so much odor, right? Time he encounters that amount of odor, it's the same amount of odor he's used to finaling on anyway in training because they're using smaller amounts. But he wasn't doing that this time. He's on a long line. And again, I also need to know if they're hiding individuals in these vehicles. And that's what I'm thinking the dog's pulling to. Dog's pulling. I don't think he's pulling to explosive odor. I think he's pulling to man. So I'll let the dog go, and he jumps in this truck. And I'm thinking I'm just going to hear screaming, right? I think we're going to have a good bite. Dog jumps in the truck, rummages around, and comes out with this falcon in his mouth. These guys were not smugglers. They were doing what it is that they told us that they were doing. But they were using a falcon to hunt with. They were falconers. It was this little peregrine falcon. The dog completely eviscerated it, chomped it down. Ended up having to pay these guys for the price of their falcon. But it's just another one of those things, man. You do not know what you're going to run into out there, ever. It's crazy. There are stories like that all the time. We have to try to proof our dogs off of anything in that environment.
But where do you find a peregrine falcon to proof your dog off of? You know,
chickens. We use a lot of chickens because dogs want to nuke chickens all the time. They're fun to go chase after. Livestock was a big one, man. We were finding caches, so weapon caches and munition caches and an explosive caches in the feedlot yards of these animals, right? So goats, camels, donkeys, sheep, they're staging them at night in one area to keep them away from predators. They're shitting in that holding pen, and they're in there too. So that is where they're going to bury all this stuff, in these chests under there. And we were successful finding stuff there as well, but we wouldn't have been if we were people, as a handler, I was scared that my dog was going to nuke a goat or a sheep. I needed a dog that was fully proofed off of that. So it was, I wouldn't say it's a challenge, it's something that we just worked on nonstop. But those are the types of things you got to understand about your operational environment as a senior guy and as a dog guy. Understand your dog's going to want to go chase this little lamb around and bite him. It's fun for him. A little squeaky toy. Or chickens. Those are very productive areas. And the enemy knows that too, right? Some of the games that the enemy plays. Okay. Through no fault of our own, the enemy started to understand the way that we were rewarding these dogs for finding explosives. Normally it was with a ball, right? Tennis ball. They have spotters and lookers all over the place, and they're giving this information back to them. So it was not uncommon on some objectives to find rocks, circular, perfectly circular rocks, shape of a tennis ball, the size of a tennis ball, that were painted like a tennis ball, yellow with the white lines, and underneath them, when the dog would nudge it, is an explosive. So
just to take your dog out.
Proof, sure. Another popular one was a massive amount of odor, right, that the dog would pull to, and 30 feet from that odor that wasn't rigged to explode, 30-foot circle around it, because our leashes are 30 feet, right? Majority of leashes we're using out there. We want to be at the end of it. They have what's called toe poppers, and that's meant to maim us, right? Take us out. Take the dog out all day. I'm just going to get another dog, you know? They really wanted to take us out, and they were really good at paying attention to what we were doing.
Sneaky, huh?
So you got to continuously understand that you're always being watched, right? In the same instance, when I'd find these weapon caches a lot of time, I'm going to tamper with them, okay? Maybe an RPG, rocket propelled grenade that you put on your shoulder and you launch. You can get really good at cutting out a piece of that tubing right there, and then tack welding over it, sanding it down, painting back over it, and then when you can go ahead and place that, it's not really going to work properly. When they go to shoot it, it's going to blow their head off. Let that happen a few times and let that word get out, and it really degrades the trust that they have in their ability to cause you harm, right? So you're constantly playing these mind games with the enemy, just like they're playing them with you. But war is an ugly game, you know, and it's for a thinking man, right? So your ability to use your brain instead of the hate you have in your heart oftentimes will get you a lot further, you know, than just violence of action. You got to be calculated, you got to be intelligent and smart. So
talk about this low vis ops.
Yeah, low vis ops, man. Sometimes you're going to have to try to blend into the local population, right? If I could grow my hair out, I would, but if I grow my beard out and I put on some of the traditional garb that's worn there, I don't have weapons on me, and I get in vehicles that look like the local population's vehicles, what we would call a low vis operation, right? Where we had these vehicles, these Hilux vehicles that we needed to get to our partner force. But we didn't want to drive brand new vehicles through the desert with these spotters and lookers and let them know. I mean, they're just going to come and steal them from you, first of all. So these are brand new vehicles that wanted to look the part, though. We want them to operate really well. The engines are brand new, but the outside we'd bang up, man. A lot of the windshields, I don't think there's a single windshield I saw in the desert that wasn't spiderweb or cracked in some way, shape, or form. So we're cracking the windshields, we're denting up the vehicles, we're throwing, dirt and debris all on them. We're making them look like they need to look for us to be able to sneak through where we need to get through and drop these vehicles off our partner for. And that's just something that happens sometimes. Those are some missions that you have to run. I got pictures there. One with my dog sitting there with my kitten. There's an MP5 there. Your weapon systems will change. Sometimes you may have to conceal a weapon system, an MP5, in a vehicle or even under, a man dress or anything like that. So there's a ton of different types of operations that are run out there. Not everything is always a big, strong American SF guy in multicams with body armor on kicking indoors. You're really playing the field out there. And that's just another aspect of the job that I love. Trying to be really good in language, trying to be really good in the dialect that's spoken in that area. The accents are different, I'm a redneck, coon-ass mix, right? But when I speak Arabic, you can't tell that I'm from South Louisiana, right? But, all of that stuff matters. All of that stuff comes into play when we're talking about being successful. And again, there's sometimes, as a dog handler, where you got to understand some problems are just not dog problems. You still have a job to do out there. And that was what I liked about it, man. That dog got me into the area that I could really work in combat, right? Experience combat. But he got me there. He wasn't going to be with me every single time I needed him. And you got to have a super solid dog because I'm an 18 Bravo. If I need to go launch mortars, I need that dog with me, but I need to go launch mortars, right? So he needs to be solid enough to be able to take all of that overpressure, all the noise and everything that's involved there. And just be chill, man. Be calm. And those are the types of dogs that we were able to create for us. But that's really the end of Syria, man. And then we move into Iraq. Iraq was much different. We were working with an established historical partner force there, out of Baghdad. Those guys had been working with us for years and years and years. We had multiple SF units there training with those guys. But as a Green Beret, again, my job is to train humans, right? To work by, with, and through them to accomplish American objectives overseas. And I'm a force multiplier. So I'm going to go in, 1 or 2 Americans can really go and fight with 100 people if we can train 100 guys to fight with us, right? So we're multiplying the force and the footprint we have on the ground there is a big job of ours. And again, that comes with understanding the customs and the courtesies and the language, living with these guys, eating with them, sleeping in the same place that they're sleeping, just living and existing with them, understanding, asking them, sitting them down, talking to them, man. What do you want out of it? This is your neighborhood. This is your home. We're going to leave eventually. What do you want to see happen here? How do you want to go about it? It's the same lessons that I learned from the commander, who was willing to listen to the lowest ranking guy in the room. Took those lessons with me overseas, and I applied them in working with partner forces, indigenous people. It's not always fun. Their customs are extremely different than ours, and a lot of guys hate that about it. Don't get me wrong, I didn't enjoy it, but I enjoyed the success that came from being close with those guys and them trusting us. So it's constant, man. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are still insider threats that you have to be very well aware of. One saying is you train these guys well, but don't ever train them so good that you can't kill them, right? Somewhere in the world, somebody is training to kill me. And that thought is in my mind every single day. It could be the guys that I'm going after. It could be one of the guys that I'm training. And it happens time and time again. You just gotta be civilized in life, but you should always have a plan to murder everybody that you meet. I don't care if it's here or in any other country over there. And I'm never going to lose that. Little things like that you take with you from that world become ingrained in your DNA. By all means, be civilized, be polite, be nice, but always have a plan to kill anybody you meet. So we go to Iraq, and we're working with this good partner force, and again, trying to train individuals, which we are. But as a dog handler, why don't we give them a dog training or dog handling capability in this country to continue the fight whenever we leave? Some guys before us, from my unit and a sister unit, went to Europe, bought dogs from Europe for this organization, the Iraqi organization, and protocol those dogs on odor and train the Iraqis on how to handle those dogs just like we were. So now, as a dog handler, when I go to this place, I'm working with partner forces. But as a dog handler, I'm really working with the dog kennel there. We almost structured their organization identical to the way our organization was structured. So we take senior dudes. When I got there, they had 3. 2 of them were dogs from Europe still. One of them, and good on them, man, was a dog that they picked up on the local economy in the market, which is
The black market.
The black market. I'll use this term loosely, he was a Malinois.
Like an Iraqi Malinois.
Ish, right? Yeah. He had pointy ears, man. Kind of looked like a Malinois. But these guys were really good, man. They were really good at understanding the concepts that we were teaching them.
But they set out on their own, picked this dog up, they saw and say,
Yeah, saved them from parvo. Every single puppy there has got parvo. It's terrible. But they nursed them through it. And I got a video that I'll share with you of an Iraqi Special Forces operator who is protocoling this puppy on explosive odor in boxes. And those dogs were solid, man. I'd go out with them every night locally, and we'd train. We'd set up problems for each other. I'd go set out odor for him. He'd set out odor for me. So, and this was all done with no interpreter. So I'm speaking Arabic with him. That was a learning curve for me, man, because I knew all of the vocabulary necessary to teach people tactics and weapons, shoot, move, communicate. I did not know
dog lingo,
the verbiage, for dog training. So a lot of pointy talky, you get concept, but a lot of it was me just demoing it with my dog, and then I want you to do this too, which was good because the dog that I had on that trip was a different dog. The original dog that I had, we had a new handler come in. He had a dog that was giving him all kinds of problems, and he needed to deploy. So I gave him my dog. And at this time, I'd moved kind of into the trainer role, the green suit trainer role. I'd been to a training course where we take dogs off of a plane from Europe and we protocol them on odor, teach them how to track. We're identifying which dogs are good for biting, right, and which dogs we can build up to be a multi-purpose canine for the schoolhouse that our guys go through. And that was a pretty good course for me to go through and have my hands on that many green dogs and just, you're building a better understanding of how to operate with these animals, how to train them, manipulate them into doing what you need them to do while making sure they think it's the most fun thing in the world. But anyway, I'd given that blonde mal off to another guy. He went and deployed. I had success with him again, and I took his dog. That dog didn't make it. It was our fault. right? At that time, I had a kennel master who was a hard charger, man. Great dude, but a hard charger. When he said to do something, we had to do it. And we spiced and fries this dog. So spies is when it's an exfiltration technique where they drop a rope from a helicopter and we're under heavy fire. We just have to get out alive. We attach into that rope and they pick us up and they go. They fly us off. That's called spicing. As a dog guy, you're going to be the last guy on the rope. The dog's going to be the bottom.
How many guys could be on a rope?
5, 6.
And dangling there, huh?
Dangling. Yeah, body harnesses. It's not bad if you're just hanging with your own body weight. It's pretty miserable when you're you're hanging and now you've got a dog that's hanging, pulling you down the other way. Mm-hmm. So you're getting kind of just yanked in half, essentially. I don't have comms with the bird. This is a new dog, and I'm working with him. He had some issues. Great dog. He would have been a really good dog. We muzzle him when we do this. This is in August, Fort Campbell, right? Pretty warm. It's in the evening, but it's still pretty warm. But for that, we had fries the dog, which is fast rope insertion, where we put a device on a fast rope, and the dog's the first one out too, because you got to put that device on, jump out of the helicopter, fast rope down with the dog on you, get it off, get out of the way, because you got meat eaters coming down that need to go and do their job. But the dog's always the first one down because of that device. So we had fries him, minimal issues. You know, sure, being in a helicopter flying around is weird for a dog, but he's brand new, man. He was not ready for this. Environmentally, he just wasn't strong enough yet. We should have built him up to it, but we had the time. We were slotted for aircraft. We're going to go and do it. Fries went okay. Fast rope went okay. Spies went horribly wrong. This dog didn't understand the concept of hanging in space and flying through the air underneath a helicopter. So he freaked out. He was trying to run in place. I can see him frothing under his muzzle. I don't have a radio to talk to the aircraft, put us down. This dog's cutting up with his dew claws, his legs. He passes out. He shits himself, pisses himself, and I think he's dead, right? I think that I just killed the dog. He wasn't dead. He was just taking a break. Comes back to life about 3 minutes later. Does the same exact thing, passes out again.
Still muzzled.
Still muzzled.
I'm assuming if he wasn't muzzled, he'd be biting you and who knows what. Huh?
He was too far below me for me to reel him up and take the muzzle off, but I knew that if I did reel him up and take that muzzle off, he was going to just destroy me.
Yeah.
I knew how long this ride was going to be. It was only about 10 minutes. Finally get on the ground. You know, the dog's conscious, but he is in a bad way. He's hurting pretty bad. He catted. He's way too hot. Get ice blankets on him, ice water. He's okay. He comes out of it. He's just, you know, when a dog's really breathing and his throat opens up to get as much air in there as possible, because that's how dogs cool, moving air in and out of their body. That's what panning is. I mean, you could have shoved it. It looked like a 2-liter bottle down his throat. That's how much he had opened up just to accept air in and out. So he's all right. He's weak, obviously. We give him IVs. We give him a ton of water. We fix him up. Go back to the kennels. It's pretty late at night. Put him down, and then I leave, go home. I come back in very early the next morning. It's the first guy there because I wanted to pull him out. Just have fun with him. Just take him out, let him know, hey, buddy, no harm, no foul last night. I didn't mean to do that to you. This is still fun. I'm still your buddy. Let's get back on the right page, and let's go to work. He wanted nothing to do with that. We're alone in the obedience yard. I'm the first guy there, and this dog is just trying to bite me. He's just trying to maul me up. He was okay-ish when I got to the kennel initially, took him out. But then I just noticed something was off with him, man. When he'd look at you, it was different, you know? So I choked the dog off me. He got me. Another guy comes in. I say, open his kennel. I had to choke him unconscious to keep him from eating me up. And I put him in the kennel. The dog comes to, and from there, man, we could not pull this dog out of the kennel without a bite sleeve or a catch pull. He just was extremely aggressive. I really think he saw us as something that was going to hurt him.
Yeah, something that was going to take him up in the air or whatever.
Yeah.
And do you think it was that experience he had, which for sure it could have been that? Or do you think some wires got crossed from the extreme heat and the lack of oxygen or whatever, and almost like a traumatic experience that it rewired him, almost made him schizophrenic or something?
When a dog reaches a certain temperature, he's in jeopardy of brain damage. And I think 100% that's exactly what happened. We damaged his brain. So wires were crossed. And it was just severe aggression that came out of that dog. You know?
That's what I'd call it, yeah.
Yeah. So we burned him up and it was not good. But because of that, we were able to dispo that dog, get another dog. I worked with that dog, great dog, man. Trained him up. Kind of kept him as a spare because we had an existing dog had a handler that left the kennels. His time was up. And we had this existing dog that was a phenomenal dog, man. Great dog, but again, he's an asshole, right? Dogs have been there long enough, they kind of get that reputation because they start understanding they can push their weight around and get what they want if they just bite you, right? That was this dog. We were going to retire him to a prison to be a cell extraction dog, which we do often with some of the dogs that we don't.
It'd be not bad, to have. I can picture myself. Maybe one of these days I'll retire and just Ian, hey, make a call to your boys. Like I want the best you got. I'm doing prison extraction.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that hand-me-down dog?
Oh, it's great. They love them.
Turnkey.
Yeah.
Woo.
They love them. And the dogs love it because they don't need to find bombs anymore. They're just eating guys.
Right to work.
Right to work.
Yeah.
And eventually guys in the prison, this is what they tell us because they'll send us pictures of what the dog's doing, bites and stuff. And they love it, man, because the dogs are the real deal. They can send a dog in on a leash and get a guy and then pull that guy out and put officers on him. They're all safe. And that's what we're going for because these dogs, man, when we're training them to bite, we train them to turn pressure off, right, by biting harder, okay? So say I'm doing water bites with a dog and he's on a sleeve or he's on a suit. I'm going to put him underwater. He loosens his grip. We really have to teach them. They're going to stay underwater so they bite harder. If they bite harder, we let them up, right? I want them to understand, and anytime, any type of situation, when pressure is increased on them, the only way to get out of it is to put more pressure on their bite, right? So same thing, man. They're on a bite, and I start pinching them or pulling hair or smacking them, right? He needs to bite harder, and that's going to make it go away.
Point being, when they finally get to the prison, really nothing that prisoner can do to get the dog to let go.
Well,
In fact,
that's what
the more you hit him, kick him, strike him, the more that dog punishes you for it.
The more he punishes you. And it overseas, man, there were some dogs that had AK-47s, like the buttstocks, broken over their heads. Some guys smacking them on bites, and they bite them up. This is not my dog, and this is a guy I'd love to have, on your podcast, but a legend in our community. It was a wintertime hit, right, in the mountains, and I believe it was Afghanistan. There's no electricity out there. Everything's run off generators, okay? It's an enemy compound, run off generators. They get there, they do their hit. The dog is being incredibly independent. He's finding work for himself. He gets separated from the handler because it's chaotic, man. All that war is just organized chaos. So everything's done, and where's the dog? They go to try to find the dog. They start clearing little outbuildings, and the dog was on a bite in a generator shed. There was a fighter in there whose job it was to make sure the generator stayed fueled because if power goes down, radio batteries die. So they needed the power to stay on. They needed a generator running. His job was to keep it running. Because the generator was so loud and he was in this little outbuilding, nobody could hear him screaming. But the dog went in there hunting, and he found what he was looking for, and he got this guy high in the thigh. And from what they say, man, it was just a massacre. The dog killed the guy, had him high on the thigh, still had the guy's dead body. The dog was still on the bite, which is really good because dead prey is something we teach these guys. If we're going through an objective and somebody's acting dead, the dog bypasses him because he's not, engaging with the dog. I still need that dog to bite that guy. He's not going to fake being dead when the dog bites him, but he can stand up when we pass him thinking he's safe and shoot us in the back. So this dog did the deed and ended up killing that guy. The guy bled out of the artery in his leg, but he had a weapon system. He had an AK-47, leaned up in the corner. He just couldn't get to it, man. Fingernails on his hands were ripped out from him trying to claw his way. And this was a big shepherd dog that had him. That dog was just phenomenal, man. Really good dog. But that's what we expect out of these dogs. So again, in the prison systems, they love them because, those prisoners are beating the brakes off those dogs when they go in there to extract them, but it's keeping the officers safe.
Absolutely.
And the dogs love it, man. So anyway, this dog's name was Frankie. He was going to go be a cell extraction dog, and I said, man, the dog's got a lot more left in him. I'll take the dog. So I took Frankie. This dog had incredible ball drive, man. Incredible ball drive.
Malinois Shepherd? What are we talking about?
I mean, he's from Slovakia. There's a breed there called a Syria that you might want to look up. It's normally like a black or like a reverse brindle, shepherd mal looking dog. I really think that's what he was because the way he was colored up and where he came from in the world. But anyway, I tell that to guys who are like, okay, man, you have a Malinois. You can look at the dog. Looks like a shepherd. Definitely not a straight Malinois, Had some shepherd tendencies in his looks, but athletically he's built like a Malinois, which is good for us. But incredible ball drive. And this dog, when the first time I saw him work, his handler takes him out of the trailer, go on a route clear. He finds a couple bombs. He never gave the dog a ball till the last bomb. So I'm thinking he's working a variable reward schedule, which is something that we do. We teach the dog, good job, man. You found the bomb, good job. Raise him up. That's great. Exactly what I want you to do. Now let's go look for another one. And in the dog's mind, I got to work harder to find this one, get reward. And you build that up a certain point, and then you reward the dog, and then it means everything, right? So a variable reward schedule, that's what I thought the guy was doing. Because at this time I was a trainer and understood that concept. He just knew he couldn't get the ball back from him, and he had to run the problem. So he gives him the ball. At the end of it, he says, open the gate on the trailer. Open it. So I opened it. And with the ball in his mouth, he takes the dog and like does a circle and kind of whirlwinds the dog into the trailer and shut the door. I shut the door. I'm like, what the fuck was that, man? He goes, it's okay, man. He'll spit the ball when he's done with it. Well, he didn't. He eviscerated the ball. And I don't know how many pieces of tennis ball this dog ended up with in his stomach, but a tennis ball didn't last long with this dog. And he didn't really like a Kong, so it was something we had to work with. I get this dog, man, with that understanding, and we go on a training mission.
And again, I understand, but for everyone else who's not a dog guy or gal, you can't just, this dog had such possession over that tennis ball, and he knew you were going to take it from him.
Yeah.
I could picture he would just bite you, then go back to the tennis ball.
Yeah.
Like, you're not getting that ball from him.
Or he bites you because you produce a tennis ball. Stop biting me. Take this ball. Well, then what does that teach the dog? If I bite you, you give me a tennis ball.
So it was just a hard-ass dog with a lot of drive. And
dude, the possession was out of this world. But the possession was there, man, because, Pat Nolan is a trainer that we bring annually to train with us. He's a phenomenal retriever trainer, but he's really an animal trainer. He trains falcons for falconry. He can train anything. Given enough time, anything can be trained to do anything, really. He taught us the concept of understanding it from the dog's perspective, okay? You want the dog to understand that, look, I know you want this reward, this ball, this tug, this copper pipe, whatever it is. And I want you to have this reward. But here's what I need you to do in order to get it. And when you do it, you're going to get it. And I'll take it from you, but you're going to get it again. Here's what you need to do in order to get it. The dog didn't understand that concept, right?
There's a lot of conflict.
There's a ton of conflict, but a phenomenal dog. Big nose, man. Big nose. Dog had a phenomenal sense of smell. I took that dog with us on about a week-long training venue away from Fort Campbell, living with the dog. He's sleeping with me. I'm bonding with the dog. He never saw a fucking tennis ball because I'm thinking to myself,
you don't want to start your relationship that way?
No, I don't, man. What am I going to do here? What am I going to do? And I remembered the way that my grandpa broke horses. He would always put them in water and he'd get on their back. And a horse really wants to buck and kick, he's got to drop his head. If you look at a bronc riding competition, that horse is really dropping his head to get that leverage to kick. Well, if he's in water, standing water, he's going to drown himself, so he can't do that. So one of the perks of South Louisiana is you got a lot of swamp, you got a lot of marsh, unstable ground. If it's unstable ground and it's full of water, can't really buck. So that's where we break horses. Thank God that I was reminded of that. Took a tennis ball, I drilled holes in it, cut it open, put a rock in there. So there's holes drilled in it, there's a rock in there, and I glued it back shut. And there's a creek where we were. And every day I was taking him into this creek. We're in the water. I'm throwing rocks. And he's got high prey drive. So he's running there thinking it could be a tennis ball, but now it disappears. I only did that a handful of times because then he starts looking at me like,
you playing with me,
a couple
boy?
more times, but and I knew he was going to nuke me. So I was like, okay, I'll take a tennis ball and we'll do this, right? So I throw the tennis ball and he was bobbing for apples, right? He could find it sometimes and he can get it and bring it back up. But if he was really, really diving for it, the dog would almost drown himself, right? When he would do that, I'd call him to him and say, hey, here's another tennis ball that's not that way. And I'd give him that one. Once he realized he couldn't get the one that he wanted and he didn't know what to do, right? He hadn't put together to come bite me and get another tennis ball because he hadn't done that with me yet. It hadn't worked with me yet. And I really believe, man, that's why I have success training other people's dogs. When I get a dog, it's a blank slate. Whatever he did with his owner, he may think he can try to do it with me, but if I correct it from the get-go, he's going to know, okay, well, that doesn't work with this guy, right? So that was the same concept with him, man. He was looking, he just didn't know what to do. He's trying to solve this problem on his own. When I taught him that, listen, man, I can help you solve this problem. I'm on your team. We're on the same team. You get this ball. That was kind of the first step for me and that dog off in the right direction, where he's trusting me to give him a ball. And, we two-ball these dogs. We throw a tennis ball, he goes and gets it. We have another one, he drops it, then we throw the next one. That's one trick to try to, no, this dog would just keep the ball. You throw another one, he have 5 tennis balls. Now you're screwed, right? Just a really smart dog, man. But very soon, through repetition, getting the dog to trust, he understood he was not in jeopardy of never getting a tennis ball again. And this dog had some really pent-up aggression. You look at all the dogs in the kennel, man, and they may be spinning, they may be jumping. And then you have this dog, and he would jump up on the cyclone fence and grab it with his teeth, push with his paws, and just reward himself that way, you know? So bad that the back of his canines were starting to wear from it. I'm like, Jesus Christ, we got to do something. So, unfortunately, he just wasn't getting out and getting worked enough because his handler, one, just handled him that way. But also he was getting out, so he wasn't getting worked much.
What's this dog's name, by the way?
Frankie.
Okay, Frankie.
Yeah. So
you had to decide whether to take this kind of turnkey monster that might have some issues or, go with something that's maybe not quite as built up yet.
Well, remember the first mistake I'd made with my first dog
A little too soft.
was making him a push-button machine. This dog was not that. This dog knew to hunt, right? I tried the variable reward with him one time, and he bit me. Found that bomb, he smashed it. He would smash odor. He had a great response, incredible obedience to odor because he had zero obedience to handler. What else are you going to be obedient? You're just the dumb monkey who gives me the ball when I find this bomb.
Right, but if you didn't give the ball quick enough, fast enough.
Oh, man, yeah. He'd bite you up. Which, it's okay, man. He very quickly understood because I knew I was going to deploy with this dog, so I'm going to rectify the deficiencies. And then sometimes, man, so if that would happen, I would correct it harshly and just get him to understand that's never acceptable. Put your teeth on me. But again, these dogs are they're trying to communicate with you. You can't be afraid of it. You have to accept it. That's why it's good to be comfortable getting bit. But you never like getting bit. Just understand the dog can't speak to you. I want this. I'm trying to tell you no. So he was on leash when I was doing the variable reward with me, crushed odor. I was good. Try to pull him away, yank me back to odor. No, I know what happens when I hit this is I get a reward, right? I loved that dedication, that obedience to odor, and I needed that out of a dog because my previous dog, if I'd have said, come on, he'd be like, yeah, sure, Dad, let's go. I didn't want that ever again, and I knew that this dog wasn't that way. So very little obedience went into this dog. His obedience to odor was paramount, and because of that, we had extreme success with him. One of the missions that I think about a lot, and this ties into the fact that we really got to get these dogs in shape. They've got to be incredible athletes, right? These dogs comprise of 3 components: genetics, training, and nutrition. This dog's genetics was off the charts. I really wish I could have replicated that in other dogs. Part of the world he came from just put out good dogs like that. Very environmentally sound dogs, but good genetics. I was able to train him up to a certain standard, right? He was able to do the job and do it really, really well. He wasn't going to be a show pony by any means, but I was over that at this point in my career. I just wanted effectiveness and efficiency. And, but this dog's duration, like his stamina, was incredible. We did a 12K offset one mission. I don't know how many miles that is. But basically the aircraft that we were utilizing to get to the objective, to get to the target, there's based off the wind, based off the topography of the ground, based off the environment, you can hear that aircraft a certain distance away. And our safe zone was 12 kilometers out where they could put us down, and then they can go in the opposite direction, and we could go and infill on foot. Now it's a 12K infill with Iraqis that the dog's got to be constantly searching for explosive. He's in front of this entire element of Iraqis and Americans. I didn't think the dog would really do that well without taking a number of breaks. But again, this is at night, and we'd worked this dog to a certain standard. I mean, he was in incredible shape. That movement, man, was a complete shit show because we were counting on the Iraqis to be point. We had trained these guys up. We're trying to get them to utilize GPSs and compasses if their GPS wasn't working properly. Trusting them to put the right grids in their GPSs to get us to the objective. Not that was the problem, but their GPSs just weren't working properly. So now we're busting out compasses. We're going old school. Got to the point where I had to cut this dog off leash and trust him to do what he was supposed to do because I literally had to put my leash on my Iraqi and steer him and work him as the point man. So that's what I'm saying, man. To have a dog that independent, to understand which direction we're moving, to go and work nonstop. And we trusted that dog. We trusted him 100% to not blow off any odor. I mean, he was so solid on odor that everybody behind that dog was super comfortable just falling in line and moving 12 kilometers and then getting to the objective and actions on the objective and that dog being successful. This is something to talk about because I think it very, very often goes overlooked, but not every objective is going to be juicy where you're finding bomb after bomb after bomb, right? Very often, and especially with this dog, his sense of smell was so good that he could go to the tool shed of the objective, smell the tools sitting on a toolbox. Now you start pulling crimpers, pliers out of a toolbox. There's no explosives on this objective. Okay, this is an IED facilitator guy who's making IEDs, right? But he's not taking the explosives home with him where his family is. But his tools are coming back home with him that have explosive residue on them. And you may be able to understand that and trust your dog Why is your dog sitting on a toolbox? Why is he sitting on these tools? Well, what are those tools? Could they be used for? Now you go question the guy. And of course, he's not going to tell you anything, but if you separate his kids from him, kids are pretty honest. You know, what does your dad do? Where does he go all day? We don't mean any harm, you know. The kids are pretty honest, and they'll tell you the truth a lot. So something as simple as that, that's just an example of what that dog was able to do. And where most people would think it's a dry hole, let's move on to the next place. Well, now you're missing out on the opportunity to really gather the intelligence that's there, because this is the guy we're looking for. There are some other telltale signs: missing fingers, missing hand. They're sometimes not so good when they're making homemade explosives. This guy was. He was good. He was good enough he was disciplined enough not to bring his work home. He fucked up in bringing his tools home. And I was fortunate enough to have a dog that was strong enough to be able to show me that, but then experience again, and problem solving comes into play. So just an understanding. This was my favorite dog to work because he was super experienced, and I was getting pretty experienced at that time too. So it all came together to create a really, really, I mean, just very successful team. Very successful.
Did y'all ever sort your differences out, or were you still getting tagged down?
Man, every once in a while, I'd have to just call halt, take my kid off, go to war with this motherfucker. That's just what it was. You know, he was so headstrong that he wanted to do things his way that sometimes I just had to, through brute force and aggression and violence, explain to him, that's not what we're doing. This is what we're doing. It's never personal. Can't be personal, right? You got to be firm but fair with these dogs. They understand firmness, but they understand fairness as well. If I'm going to beat the brakes off this dog, it's got to be because of gross disobedience, that he understands he's blowing me off, right? It can't be because I'm just having a bad day and the dog's not doing maybe exactly what I want him to do, right? A dog like him is going to understand when you're being firm. When he deserves an ass beating, he understands that. But he also understands when he doesn't deserve it. When he doesn't deserve it, he's going to let you know.
Yeah, they know that too, man.
Yeah. Firm but fair is super important.
Yeah. And then for anyone who's listening to this and, you know, hearing how you're describing it, it is a whole other world. We're talking about men's lives at risk.
Yeah.
You cannot afford to get chewed up and eaten up by your own dog, which we've already explained the potential that these dogs can and have and continue will. Like, they have the ability to kill people and cause permanent disfigurement. And this dog's already nuked, you a handful of times, and sometimes got to speak to them in their language. They're animals, and you can't sit them down, you can't put them on timeout, and you can't read them a bedtime story. We have to fix it here and now, and it sounded to me like a real alpha dog, real strong dog.
Yeah, he was a great one, man. He's
and
one
it's just, there's some folks out there in the civilian realm who cannot imagine this caliber of dog. You can almost argue it's a different species. There's pets, and there's little fluffy, poofy doodles, and then there's machines, killers that would, if you released them out in the wild and left them to their own devices, they would just take over the nearest wolf pack.
Yeah.
Or they would decimate the herd of elk running around, whatever. I mean, real machines.
Yeah.
And so, so sometimes you have to have those strong conversations with those dogs. And that's not every dog.
It's not every dog, and it's not every day with this dog either. And listen, don't get it twisted, man. I love this dog to death. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to allow him to go kill himself so that I don't die. More importantly, my buddies behind me don't die. Much as I love this dog and admire this dog's capabilities and just work ethic and potential, right? If he were to die, I'm on the phone getting another one, and we're just going to continue mission. It sounds brutal, man. It sounds emotionless, right? But in that environment, you've got to have a good handle on your emotions. And it happens pretty often, man, when these guys get so attached to the dog that they start being uncomfortable putting that dog in harm's way. And when that happens, you're putting Americans' lives in jeopardy, right? It happens. But
yeah, and this is not my place to say it, but this is war. This is life and death. This isn't an AKC obedience show.
Right.
You're not trying to win a ribbon.
I look at the dog like a weapon, man. The weapon is malfunctioning, right? We either rectify it. The gross malfunction, we swap it out. And we continue. That weapon's still got to go and do its job.
Yeah, and then as hard as you had to be and have that mindset, I can still hear behind that how much appreciation or love you had for that dog.
Oh, yeah.
But you just have to be able to set it aside.
Yeah.
It's tricky. It's always, I don't know where the balance is in that. Because we would have these same conversations in law enforcement canine. But it is a tool. You will send that dog into harm's way. This is literally its job.
Yeah.
Might not be dealing with IEDs on the regular, no. But guys with guns, guys with knives, unknown circumstances. And it ain't easy. You spend a lot of time with that dog. And then there is always this conversation of like, do you treat the dog like a tool? Do you treat it like a family member? Can you have that on and off switch? Does the dog sleep with you in your home, in your bed, in a crate, in the backyard? Like, so, and everyone had different ways of dealing with it. Some handlers would not let the dog in the house and honestly, I don't think they had any love for it. I would also argue, I don't think a lot of them had a love for the job itself.
Yeah.
Or a passion. My family, who's in K9, we love the dogs like family members, but we also love them enough to know, like, not that I love to put them in harm's way, but we as humans, like, we loved the work, and these dogs loved the work. And if they just so happen to die in the process of doing the thing that they love, then it's better maybe than growing, old and developing arthritis and dying some other different way. So,
yeah.
But that's how we would get through it. It's hard, man. But,
yeah. Well, there's love and there's respect, man. I respected the shit out of all of our dogs, and I didn't necessarily love every one of them. I didn't love this dog till he retired and came home with me.
Oh, see?
And then I allowed him, I allowed those emotions to surface.
Right? It's just a tool. Right. I did let him retire and come home.
Yeah, he wasn't.
There is a soft side to Ian.
Yeah, man. But you got to understand too, man. Less than 10% of the population joins the military. Less than 1% of the military is special operators. Very small group of individuals, and that's why we're that way. But we have to be that way in order to do the job that we're expected to do.
Yeah.
It is just a job, man.
And I just don't want anyone to gripe or complain. They can just go fuck themselves, because if it wasn't for men like you doing the work that you did, then they would have to do it and they would fail miserably. It's not their place to have an opinion. They've not been there. They never will go there. They can't imagine going there, and they would get eaten up and spit out. They'd be like that dog that was dangling and shitting itself off the end of that fast rope, even though it was just a training exercise. So,
yeah. Well, at the end of the day, man, the reason that they can have the opinions that they have, right, wrong, or indifferent, are because of people that go and put themselves willingly in harm's way, run towards gunfire instead of away from. The toxic masculinity that is getting such a bad rap in this world. I was so fortunate to be fucking bathing myself in it on a daily basis.
I think I hear a lot of your grandfather coming through. Oh, I meant to ask you, maybe now's a great time to ask you, were there ever moments both in training or downrange or in the middle of a gunfight or when dogs biting your ass, did these moments that these teachings or the aura or the presence or the words of your grandfather would, like, almost like say, what would Grandpa do? And he'd say, suck it up, buttercup, were there ever those moments?
Man, there are a lot of times that you're tempted to feel sorry for yourself, self-pity. That gets you nowhere in life, and it gets you dead in this job. So, yes, I mean, every single time I thought about feeling sorry for myself, not only did the lessons my men like my grandpa taught me come back to me, but that first day walking in that gym and seeing these guys with missing limbs still working their asses off to go back there and do an even better job comes to my mind. You know what I mean? How would I ever live with myself or feeling sorry for myself when there are men like that have paved the way for me to go and do what I'm doing right now? And I've got to live up to their expectations, right? And the reputation that they've set. I don't consider myself special in any way. I consider those men incredibly special. And the only thing that may have made me special was me trying to get to their level, and never reaching it, in my opinion. But that's how I look at life. You should accomplish something. There's always something more to accomplish. So keep going, keep striving, It's guys like that, man. It's guys that have been there before us. It's guys that paved the way for us. And it's guys that we've lost, guys that have died, that have paid the ultimate sacrifice. The best way to honor them and their sacrifice in their life is to live your life the way you think they would have wanted you to, the way you think they would have lived theirs if they could have, And I wake up every day with that, every day. This same dog that we're talking about, Frankie, stateside, we had a Green Beret commit suicide. It happens more often than I'd like to admit, and much more often than I'd like to discuss. But this one hit home, pretty close to home, man. Before he committed suicide, there were rumors. He had a divorce, probably a bad divorce. And there were rumors that he had taken back a bunch of explosive devices and ammunition and stuff that shouldn't be at his home, right? So when that happens, something that has to happen is we're going to go with our dog and try to find it if there is anything there. I bring this dog, Frankie, there. We're searching all the outbuildings, nothing there.
And if I can ask, is this like official or like, hey, bro, you got that retired dog that can still find bombs?
No, his dog's active at this point. I'm still at the kennels. Because it's fifth group internal, right? Okay. We're going to take care of it. there's investigators and all this stuff. If the guy would have still been alive, I'm sure MPs would have gone and done that, but he wasn't. So we were going to do our due diligence and go make sure.
After he passed.
Yeah, okay. Go make sure. And that's all the information I had. You know, this guy committed suicide, and we need to go. This is the information we have. We need to go make sure it's not accurate. And if it is accurate, we're going to call it in. EOD is going to come. We're basically going to treat it like, we would. We're going to get the civilian law enforcement involved because it is stateside. We go in the house, man, and we're searching stuff. And I see on the guy's desk a picture. I didn't know who the guy was. Up until this point, I see on his desk a picture of me and another one of our guys and him. And long story short, it's a guy that I knew very well. We had gone through the Q course together, and we had done some deploying together. He was a medic. He was an exceptional guy. The last guy that you'd ever think would do what he did. But we had grown apart. We'd grown away from each other, man. Work gets busy. He goes his way, I'll go mine. Yeah, sometimes our paths cross, and when it does, we're brothers, man. We're gonna fucking tear it down like we always would. But I've also got a family, 5 kids and a wife, and when I'm home, I focus on them, and I leave work at work, right? And unfortunately, I was guilty of leaving my buddies there too. And he's not a guy who's going to cry and bitch and moan and ask for help, And that hit pretty hard, man, because I think that if I'd have known that about him, if I'd have stayed in touch with him, stayed involved with him, that would have never happened. It would have never happened. So that always, I constantly think about that. And it's a reminder to me, to look outside of yourself, man. Make sure that you're checking on your buddies. Make sure that they're doing okay. And if they're not, drop everything that's going on. Get your hands on them and make sure that they're going to get right. And if they don't want to get right, make them get right. This guy died of an overdose. I'm sure he had some demons, Guys just over time just can't deal with that stuff and want to numb the pain. They went a little too far, unfortunately. But yeah, we're humans at the end of the day. When you leave that job, man, nobody else understands what we're talking about here today other than the guys that have been there doing it with. No therapists. After deployments, we got to talk to these therapists. Sometimes it's command directed, depending on how the deployment went. Civilian therapists, it's just a check the box type deal, man. We know that. And there's certain things you don't want to talk about. You don't want to get benched, right? You don't want to flag yourself as somebody who's incapable of doing the job because you want to go and do the job with your buddies. Know your strengths, know your weaknesses, know your limitations, and know when to ask. The real friends out there, the guys that understand, ask them for help. Because, man, anytime that's happened since, and I've gotten a lot more involved with guys, and guys have gotten a lot more involved with me, man. I owe a lot of them a debt of gratitude, and I'm sure they owe me the same, and I'll never expect it because it's just what we got to do for each other. If we don't do it for each other, nobody else is going to. Family members, they just don't understand, and we don't want to burden them with the stuff that we've been through. We put ourselves there willingly, and it's our responsibility to deal with it appropriately and responsibly. But you do need help sometimes, and you need to find that from guys that have been there and done it with you. Yeah.
Heavy, man.
Yeah.
Real heavy. Speaking of heavy, let's go right from one heavy thing to the next. You survived multiple tours, arguably facing death in the face, mission after mission. Who knows how many close calls you had, literally in a war zone. Then you come back stateside and take us back, if you will, February 2022.
Yeah.
And a big life-changing event.
Yeah, man. So that's the event that took me out of the military, essentially, or started down the path of med boarding out. It was the day that Russia invaded Ukraine, and my family was actually in Louisiana for Mardi Gras. So I was pretty much home alone. My oldest daughter had to stay because she was working. So I'd stayed up most of the night, man, just thinking that we're going to get involved in some way, shape, or form, go to work that day, start sitting in on meetings and briefings and stuff, things of that nature, prepping, posturing, just in case. At this time, I was a kennel master of the kennels. But when something like that kicks off at that scale, especially my new guys, I was going to go overseas with them, at least for their first couple missions, and get them combat ready, because we didn't really had a green suit trainer at the time, and that's kind of what you did as a green suit trainer, was take the new guys, make sure they're combat ready, and then come back home. So I was prepping to do that, man. Anyway, come back home, get a call that I need to go back to work for a meeting that afternoon. This is after hours, so I'm thinking it's a pretty important meeting. And on the way, it's pretty shitty weather. It's February in Tennessee, so it's like sleeting. The roads are starting to kind of ice up a little bit. Up until that point, man, like seatbelts in a vehicle were always something that, especially operationally, you really never wanted to wear. You wanted to get the fuck out of there very quickly and move and be mobile if you could. For whatever reason, man, just because of the weather, like a seatbelt, who knows what the fuck could happen. Literally 5 minutes down the road from my house. And I live out in the country, man, pretty rural place. Most of us do that. We want to get the fuck away from civilization. When we're home, we want to leave all that behind and kind of get some quiet, just a quiet atmosphere. So that's why we live out there. Windy roads, man, I'm going, and around the curve comes this vehicle at a super high rate of speed, and it all happens very quickly. But just like people say, when your adrenaline spikes like that, things slow down. This is nothing new to me. It's the same thing that happens everywhere else when your adrenaline spikes. Vehicle was in my lane, went back into his lane, overcorrected. When he went off the road on his side, overcorrected, and ended up cutting his wheels so hard, and he was going so fast that his truck was up on two wheels when it hit me. I remember telling myself, don't go into his lane, because if you do hit him, now you're in his lane. You'd be in the wrong. Don't do that. Try to go off the road, but there was no shoulder there. There was just an embankment up. I was kind of in a pretty bad place, so I just said, slow down as much as you can. It was 45 miles an hour there, which is what I was doing. Actually, when they look at my speedometer, it was at 44 miles an hour. Cuts off when your truck gets destroyed like it did. The vehicle that hit me was probably doing about 82 is what they estimate. So 45 and 82, you add those up, that's the impact. But I can remember thinking to myself that there were two occupants in that vehicle. They were young kids, man. Unfortunately, it's terrible. Sad. I got kids the same age, The female occupant of the vehicle was up on the dashboard. She must not have been wearing a seatbelt. And I remember thinking to myself that that body was going to come through both windshields and kill me. That was one thought that I had. And the second thought, or the second thing that I saw, was shift over to the driver, and just, his face and his eyes, I could see in that kid's eyes, man.
This is right before impact.
Right before impact, yeah.
The girl was already up on the dash, like just from the bouncing around and
yeah,
stuff.
Just because that truck was up on its front tires, moving quickly and violently, man. I knew it wasn't going to be good, so I told myself to go limp. If you're tensed up, that's why drunk drivers, whatever reason, that's why they a lot of times are uninjured in wrecks, because they're just nice and loose, inebriated. I thought I was limp enough. Things go dark, impact happens, I get knocked out, come back to, and I smell fire, and I think that my truck's on fire. It's the vehicle that struck me, that flipped over me. It's on fire, probably about 50 yards away. I can hear the popping, the exploding, and I can smell that, fuel, tires. It's a smell that you don't forget. Smelled it so many times. I come to, man, and I had to make sure that my truck wasn't on fire, was the first thing. Okay, it's not my truck, but I do smell fire. Hopefully it's far enough away that my truck doesn't catch fire. My windshield's spider glassed, obviously. I do a head-to-toe assessment when I finally come to, and I'm sitting there for a little while, rocked, because, man, in the course of my career, I've had a couple bumps on the head, quite a few concussions and TBIs, things of that nature. So every time that happens, you come out of it a little slower, I think, every single time. I came to, and I went to do a head-to-toe assessment with this hand, and I realized that wrist was completely broken. You could just tell it was snapped. I put that down. I used this hand and trying to feel for fingertip gashes, in my head or anything. It just comes naturally. I've trained for this for so long, it just comes naturally to you. So you're kind of just operating in ignorance, really. You're going through these checks, and your body's doing what it's been trained to do, fortunately. I was okay. I was bleeding from the head a little bit, but nothing crazy. Come down, incredible pain in the rib area. I'd broken quite a few ribs. And I came down to my pelvis, man. And I started pressing on the pelvic area because, again, like I told you, we practice shooting people in the face, in the neck, and in the pelvis, right? Understand, when you get shot in the pelvis, it drops the body because that's what holds the skeletal structure up. But when you drop it, that pelvis can shatter or break and shatter in quite a few places. That starts severing arteries really quick. So I wanted to make sure my pelvis wasn't broken, and it felt okay. Came down to my femurs, this part of my leg. Both of them were spongy and popping. I knew they were both broken multiple spots. And then I couldn't see from the knees down. So I immediately, since I can't see my feet, I don't know if I have feet anymore. I go to put tourniquets on my legs. And I always had tourniquets in my center console of my truck. So I'm looking for my center console, right? I can't find it. And I settle myself down. I'm like, okay, driver seat, center console, passenger seat, back seat, the four-door truck. I look left, there's the driver's seat and steering wheel. Look right, there's the passenger seat. I'm almost in the back seat essentially, but I'm sitting on my center console. Center console opens up, so I can't get to these tourniquets. And by that time, I'm trying to think, man, can I cut a seat belt? You know, how can I get this seat belt and start tourniqueting my legs? I really didn't think I had feet left. With the pain in the legs.
And you can't see in just the way you're pinned in. I mean.
Yeah, I was basically, my legs were trapped between the engine and the frame of the vehicle. The engine was moved up to where I was originally seating. Everything was pushed. Everything was just smashed up. While I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to tourniquet my legs, you know, because the pain here is pretty bad. Pain everywhere was pretty bad. But the pain below the legs was pretty severe too. Or below the knees, I'm sorry. I was in a place I couldn't see. So that's why I didn't think I had feet left. And I needed to try to save. What you know is you got to try to save as much of the leg as possible, right? If I'm not gonna have feet, hopefully I can still have my knees. I want those joints, right? These are all the things that are foolishly kind of going through my mind. Because again, you just got your bell rung, right? At that time where I'm trying to take the seat belt and start wrapping it around, because it gets real stretched out when you're in a wreck, man. I didn't know that. I'd never been in a wreck like that before. I couldn't cut it because I didn't have all the knives and stuff were in my center console. So I was just going to wrap it around and just pull traction until hopefully I could get out or figure out how to get out. And again, you're just trying to solve these problems because you don't expect anybody to help you. That's probably one of the biggest assets of that personality type is no one's coming to save you. So save yourself. Just know that no one's coming to save you and plan your life accordingly. And that makes you incredibly independent and capable of solving your own problems because that's how you should be. You know, nobody gives a shit about you. You should give a shit about you. So that's what I was doing. Man, this guy comes up. Thank God. At this point, my truck did catch on fire. The engine did. And I'm trying to bust the window with my good hand. And I can barely reach it. So I'm leaning over, trying to bust through the window in an attempt to hopefully try to drag myself out. But I don't know how badly I'm trapped. And a guy comes up to the window and, you know, if his face was any indication of how I was going to do, I was good as dead, man. Because I know what shock looks like on a person's face. And I'm trying to assess my situation based off of his facial feature. What he's telling me there, right? And he's terrified. Like he's looking at a dead man. He couldn't believe I was alive. I don't think he was expecting me to be alive, much less talking to him and telling him to put the fire out of my truck because I couldn't get out. I said, put that fire out first. Don't worry about me. Just put the fire out because I don't want to burn up alive. They were two guys that were fishing. And fortunately, they had a fire extinguisher in their boat. But for that, man, they just took all the earth that had been, you know, we just destroyed the side of the ground. They were taking dirt and just throwing it on the truck fire and smothering it out that way. Man, stellar dudes, right? I mean, thankfully, they were able to think through that whole scenario, right? So they put the fire out, and another guy says, I'm going to go try to help the other truck. And his buddy looks at him and says, there's no helping that other truck. Just stay here, help me try to get him out.
Engulfed at this point.
Done, man. It's just, you couldn't even get close to it, you know. Well, from what they tell me. And I talked to both these guys afterwards, thanked them, obviously, but one of those guys has issues still to this day from what he saw. Not everybody's cut out for that type of stuff, you know. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they shut down the road, obviously. They were going to bring Life Flight in, but the weather was just atrocious.
You still trapped in the truck still?
Still trapped in the truck. I was trapped in the truck for about an hour and a half. Because now all these emergency vehicles got to get there, and the roads are shit. So these guys are there. An actual cop, man, that I knew, funny, not funny, he had arrested me years before. His last name was LeBlanc, and I remember that because LeBlanc is a very Cajun name. Mm-hmm. He shows up, and he's a man. He's a big dude. And he ripped that fucking, the two guys that had found me were trying to pry the door open. You know, he shows up, and he just rips it open. I remember he ripped it open so hard that he fell with the door. He fell over and starts tumbling, man. And I remember laughing at him, you know, and talking shit to him because
at that moment,
because he's a guy that, you know, I had some history with. I was very thankful that he was there, but it just goes back to that dark humor that we were talking about that gets you through so much. That's all I knew, you know. I think every situation can be worse, and that's what I was looking at. Oh man, I'm alive. I have from the knees up. I know. So I know I've kept my knees. I was super excited about that. At that point, I thought I'd lost from below the knee. So I'd already accepted that in my brain. And I was just trying to figure out life with the kneecaps and prosthetics below the knee. I'm still trapped in the fucking truck, right? So the emergency personnel come in, and I'm trying to tell him my injuries. I'm trying to tell him how to treat me, you know, and he said, listen, man, I got you, right? He was straddling me, facing me, trying to assess me. He's
in the truck still.
In the truck still. Older gentleman. That's when he did I was like, I got tourniquets under me, grab these tourniquets. He's like, I got my own. It's okay. Let me take over. And then something came to mind. I mean, like a light, man. There's times to lead. There's times to follow. And there's times to get the fuck out of the way. Mm-hmm. And I understood that from a military career because I'd been in all three of those situations. But a good team guy, a good teammate understands that. He understands when it's time for him to lead. He understands when it's time for him to follow other people's leadership. And he understands when it's time to just shut up and get out of the way because other people have things to do. And at this point, it was time for me to shut up and get out of the way, you know? So that guy took control of me. They ended up cutting me out of the vehicle, pulling me out of the back class. And then there was an hour ride to Nashville, the level 1 trauma center. And I remember from pushing ketamine, the guys overseas, obviously, can't really overdose on ketamine, so it's pretty safe, right? That's what they would allow us to use. Yeah, we had fentanyl lollipops that we would pop into a guy's mouth, and it would rest between his cheek and his gum, and kind of low-dose fentanyl for guys. But ketamine, you could just put him in the K-hole, what we called it. And that's just when you put him into bliss, right? He's going to go unconscious, but you can't really overdose on ketamine. So I just remember selling this dude as we're hitting bump after bump, put me in the K-hole. Like, it's okay. Just put me in the K-hole.
Does he have any idea what you're saying?
Man,
put me in the K-hole.
Talking back, when I went and talked to this guy, because that doesn't happen either, which is mind-blowing. When I finally got on my feet again and I could escape the fucking hospital months later.
Well, let's not go there just
Yeah. Well, I found this guy again.
But did they ever give you the ketamine?
There. Oh, they were giving me ketamine. They were giving me everything. Ketamine, morphine, fentanyl. They were giving me everything.
And would work?
Yeah, it was working. But for some reason, man, I think they were probably not trying to only try to give you as much as you absolutely need.
Yeah.
They still need you coherent because when you get there, you probably need to be able to articulate.
My understanding, too,
things
is I don't think they can make those dosage calls in the back of the truck. I think they have to call in each time to the actual, ER doctor.
Yeah, I'd love to know.
That's how I've seen it done.
Yeah.
That same radio frequency they're on, they're calling in saying, hey, we're transporting a 6-foot, 250-pound guy. We've already given him this dosage. He has these injuries. We gave him this. How much more can we give him? Okay, you can give him a little more.
Yeah.
I don't think they're allowed to. Probably different in different jurisdictions and states, but that's how I've seen it done. That they have to get permission from an actual physician.
Yeah.
Who's not in the truck with them.
Makes sense.
And that physician's probably got to, they got to think about probably playing it more safe,
Yeah, they're not just putting people in the K-hole. That's
not in the K-hole.
So anyway, we get to the hospital. And I remember, man, in the 18 Delta course for our Special Forces medics, those guys do time in emergency rooms in these big cities that have a lot of gunshot victims. So I knew that, and lo and behold, man, I go into this holding area, I think for real trauma, right? And man, there was an impinged nerve in my wrist that was really burning like fire. I felt like my hand was on fire. I kept telling him, man, my hand feels like it's on fire. These guys he's like, this is going to suck. This is going to hurt. I said, just do what you got to do, man. I had to reset my wrist, to loosen up the impinged nerve. And to be honest with you, it hurt like hell, but it felt so much better when it was done. I didn't mind it, but there was these 2 young guys with fucking mustache, which that was before, mustaches became popular again. And I could remember thinking, these are 18 Delta students. The way they were talking to me, the way I in turn began talking to them. I don't know to this day if they were. For whatever reason, I just could have sworn on my life that those dudes were 18 Deltas, and I started talking to them like it. Like, this meant I'm an 18 Bravo, an 18 Zulu slot, and none of this probably made fucking any sense to them. I'm trying to explain to them who I am. Like, I need you to take care of me, right? At this point, I know that I still have legs, so I really need you to fucking hammer down and take care of this shit so that I can walk again. I can get back and operate again. Real crazy thinking, but that's, where your brain takes you. And then from there, it was, at that point, I didn't know that the kids died. It was crazy, man, the first few days in the hospital. Well, I get there, they put me in a bed, and I do surgery immediately the next day. My surgeon, this goes out on the net, right, to 5th group. They know who I am now, so they identify my chain of command, let them know. My surgeon, my battalion surgeon, stellar guy, man. He's constantly bettering himself. So I think his wife's also a doctor, a physician. He does rotations in Nashville at the hospital, in the ER. He's that type of guy who's doing extra work on the weekends.
Just to stay sharp.
Just to stay sharp, man. And a battalion surgeon, he's really not doing any medicine. He's not really deploying and treating guys. So, he missed that part of it, I guess, thank God, because he knew the doctor who was going to do my surgery. Man, they put me back together really well. He was able to get there, speak to that surgeon, explain who, and I'm not going to tell you, man, that they did a better job on me because of who I was, but I think it mattered that surgeon knew my battalion surgeon, and my battalion surgeon knew me. He's like, man, whatever we can do for this guy, let's do it. Whatever, even if it's something that may not been approved, but a chance you want to take, and the chance that it would be better, take that chance. Let's go ahead and do it, man. My surgeon was phenomenal, man. But then they ended up putting rods in my femurs, so they drill the bone marrow out of your bones, and they replace that with a metal rod, and then they put bolts in your hips, your knees, and in this knee, this right leg. Told you I tried to go limp. Apparently, I didn't go limp. My right hand must have been on the steering wheel. My right foot on the brake pedal. This was completely shattered all the way up, and to include that wrist, that's why I was jacked up. So basically, my knee had a floating knee, is what they call it. There was no bone connecting to the knee from up here, from the femur, and there was no bone connecting to the knee, tibia, and fibula. So still today, my step is twisted. It's not what it should be, but man, they did a great job. Draw the bone marrow out, put these rods in. Same thing in the tibia, fibula down here. I had compound fractures down there with the bone sticking out of the leg. They put everything in you, and a big plate in the knees, and then you're on the path to recovery.
This couldn't have been one surgery.
It was, man. That was the impressive part. It was like a
surgery, huh?
16 or 17-hour surgery. And again, I attest that. I'm sure this surgeon's a hard motherfucker. I'm sure he's great at his job, right? But I can't help but think that the fact that my battalion surgeon knew him and he was there, scrubbed in on the surgery, man.
He did?
Oh, yeah. Oh. Yeah. There's no doubt in my mind that that's why he wanted to just do it and do it well and do it right the first time and not have to go back in and risk infection or anything else.
That's crazy, man.
Oh, stud, man. Stud. And I met that guy afterwards, and great guy. But yeah, they put you back together, and then...
What kind of recovery were we talking?
Shitty one. Yeah, it was real extensive. I'd never... I'd been banged up throughout the job, but I'd never been incapable of taking care of myself. Might be a little much for the podcast, but when a grown man can't wipe his own ass, it's pretty demoralizing, Can't bathe himself. You are literally giving yourself to everybody else to take care of. And that's not my personality whatsoever. I'm supposed to be taking care of other people, right? So that was a mental hurdle that I had to get over very quickly. I had to accept help. Got so bad that I was eating so many opioids, right, that, my stool was incredibly impacted. And I was like, I'm not even going to eat anymore because I don't want to keep taking these opioids. They would make me not feel the pain, which wasn't good. I needed to feel the pain because I wanted to get on my feet again. I wanted to start walking again. I was terrified that I was going to be crippled because they were telling me best case scenario is wheelchair, the rest of your life, or really best case scenario is a walker or crutches. So with that in mind, I just had to, almost like I had to prove it to them to prove it to myself. Like if you're going to tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do everything now to prove you wrong, right? But that was going to be beneficial for me. So recovery was you're on your back for about a month, right? You're not even really moving your leg. You're shitting in a bedpan. People are literally taking care of you. Losing all the muscle that you had, right? That really helped me not die in that accident. I think that if they would have hit, I know if they'd hit an older person or a younger person, who would have died. Just because your body's stronger and tougher and used to trauma, I was able to pull through that. Also, the micro adjustments that I made right before impact saved my life too. So an incredible awareness of your situation and your environment. If I would have been looking at my phone or focused on other things while driving, and I didn't pick it up as soon as I did and know exactly that I better buckle up for a fucking impact, I wouldn't have made the micro adjustments to get out of the way and do the things that allowed that guy to flip over me instead of just completely drive through me, right? So recovery was, it was an exceptional team there, man. The first stage of that is you're in the hospital, right? And there you're just existing, and you're just trying to let everything settle, let your body get used to everything. And then they moved me into a rehabilitation center out of the emergency where we're trying to still make sure you're going to survive and make sure that your body's accepting all this new hardware. And now we're going to move you into a rehabilitation center. Now we need you to start trying to move again, trying to start just operate and live again. Man, I remember I'd throw my legs off the bed and the blood would go down to my legs and would not circulate back up. And because we practiced so much choking each other out, right? blacking out. I knew this is a countdown, basically. I'd look at my nurse and say, got about 5 seconds, 3 seconds, and then I would go out. I'd black out. The first couple of times they thought I was, again, it's probably the same as the people in the ambulance. What the fuck is this guy talking about? I'm trying to tell them I'm going to pass out. So they very quickly understood how in tune I was with my body. And I think that helped them understand how to deal with me. I never allowed them to strap me down on my bed, but I was breaking all the rules, man. I needed to get up and I needed to start putting weight on my legs, or at least throw my legs off the bed and force my body to pump the blood back up. So from the very beginning, man, it's just how we're wired. Again, just think of it in a sense that no one's coming to save you. You got to save yourself. So you're only going to get as far as you bring yourself, right? I started doing things like to the point where I'd pass out on the toilet because I would have to get myself to the toilet, and then I was so weak and the blood wasn't coming back up to my head. They'd catch me passed out in the bathroom. But again, it's physically I was going to heal, right? Over time. I was rushing everything because I needed to heal. I needed to prove to myself that I could do it. This is now a challenge. Again, somewhere in the world, somebody is training to kill you. This is now trying to kill me in my brain. So this is how I attack it, right?
Were you at all angry, or have you ever been angry? Like, man, this is how I get taken out?
Yeah.
Stateside?
Yeah, man. You go through a lot of different emotions, none of them healthy, none of them good. Anger's always been a good fuel for me, a good motivating factor. So I did let anger creep in a little bit. But man, I started directing it at the wrong people, like my wife, for instance, who was a fucking saint this entire time. She's dealing with, kids at home who don't know really what's going on with dad. And she's keeping it all together there. And she's coming daily, to sit with me, be with me, try to be strong for me. And I'm being angry with her. Man, no, can't do that. That's just selfishness. If I was going to be angry at anything, I was going to be angry with my own, right? So I started setting goals for myself daily. This is something you kind of learn in SEER school, in the Q course, Survivally Raised in Resistance Escape, where you're going to survive, you're going to evade capture, then you're going to get captured, and you're going to be a POW, right? And the things they do to you there, it's great training, I'll tell you that much. But it increases mental resiliency, and it gives you little ways really to survive being a prisoner of war. And I was right back in SEER school in my mind in that hospital. For a guy like me who's super active, who's always out and about doing things, putting me in a bed and making me immobile, you might as well have just been stabbing me to death, man. It was torture. It really was. So I set little goals for myself, and every single day I had to accomplish a few objectives. As little as they were, that's something that's necessary for me mentally, But yeah, man, there was anger because I wanted to keep doing the job. I felt like I was letting the boys down, They would come visit me, and you really feel like you're letting them down then, man. You just got to get better. Got to get better for yourself and your family. Again, you got to live every day the way you think that your brothers who died would have lived theirs. And you still got a life to live, Stop fucking feeling sorry for yourself and get after it. Nobody's coming to save you. Just go ahead and get after it. So it's what it was, man. But it was a painful road.
How long were we talking before you back to normal? You could walk?
Oh, man. Probably, 2.5 months I spent there total. When I got back to the house, I was able to leave when I could, shower with assistance of my wife, go to the bathroom essentially without assistance. I was in a wheelchair, and there was a slide board that you would slide like from the wheelchair to a toilet or to your shower. Man, my neighbors and community were amazing. Like these guys came and fucking redid my bathroom because they never thought I'd be able to walk. So all of that, man, all of that. My fucking washer machine flooded the bottom level of my house like a day after I got in my wreck. My commander, sergeant major, teammates of the Green Berets came, ripped everything out, replaced it all, things like that. Those are the ways that we take care of it. Because inevitably when you deploy or when you're not there, things are going to go to shit. And that meant a lot. It meant a lot. Like I didn't need them sitting there with me. I could do that. I needed them making sure my wife was good. But yeah, so 2.5 months in, I finally get home and you're on a walker. I was on a walker in a wheelchair. And man, I have a side-by-side, right? At the house that I used. That was like my real wheelchair because I was done being inside, man. I was getting out. I was falling a lot. I was falling down a lot just because I'd try to walk without the walker and do it when no one was watching when I was by myself. I was going out trying to feed my dogs, take care of my dogs. Another thing, man, my buddy took all my dogs. He's got a training dog training business. Took all my dogs that entire time, took care of them. That's huge, you know. But now I'm out there trying to feed my dogs, at least clean kennels again, you know. I just needed to stay busy and get back on my feet, and it was incredibly painful, man. And my goal was to go home with no drugs, no painkillers whatsoever. And they try to give you a jar of them to take home with you. I didn't want any of it, man, mainly because I knew I was going to start pushing the limits, and I needed to feel when I was hurting. Because I know the difference between pain and discomfort. I'm going to push it to the level of extreme pain or extreme discomfort, but when I'm in pain that's going to injure myself, that's when I'm going to stop. But if I'm on those drugs, man, I'm going to further injure myself. That was another thing, man. You really got to embrace the suck, embrace the pain, and use it to get yourself stronger. Right? Pain is just weakness leaving the body. Apparently I had a lot of weakness in me that needed to leave. But yeah, man, I just got busy and I was falling again. My feet wouldn't move as quickly as they used to, obviously. But over time, you know, I didn't have a vehicle, right? So I just started buying beaters to get around. They didn't want me driving. Obviously the right foot is not great. I still had a license, still had a valid license. Not like law enforcement told me not to drive, but the medical staff was trying to tell me not to drive. So I remember just buying this piece of shit truck because I had to be mobile, man. I had to start getting out and doing things. My mental sanity. I'd never been in one place that long in my life. I'm over here using my right foot for the gas and my crutch or my cane for the brakes, man, trying to drive. And eventually I got a vehicle that wasn't a complete piece of shit because I'm waiting on insurance to pay me out. I can go buy another truck or another vehicle. They do, man, and I'm good enough to go. I go back to group. I go back to work. And not in any official capacity, but I went to our physical therapists and our trainers. And they're really good at helping guys with injuries similar to mine, man. So they were phenomenal in really putting me through the ringer. A lot of scar tissue built up and a lot of nerve pain, so a lot of ice bathing. They had this zero weight treadmill that you get in, and there's this, you put pants on, and it's all air in there, right? It can't escape, so it elevates you. It allows you to put as much weight as you want to on your leg. So you know, my goal was to be running again. I could barely walk. My stride was off because one leg was broke worse than the other. On there, it shows you if your stride's messed up, how to correct it. So I just had access to probably a bunch of stuff that a civilian in my position would have never had access, you know, and I just got busy and got stronger. And yeah, man, that's pretty much what it was. But it didn't come without a lot of hard work and a lot of, there's a realization that you're never going to do what you did again. And I can be, if I'm being honest with you, man, I could deploy again, right? But I know that I would never be as good as I should be. And I could keep myself alive, but if it came, I could never forgive myself for letting a teammate down, not being everything that I absolutely need to be for them. And I'd never put myself in that position again. I'd never let my ego put me. Because the question was that, you know, we can get you a desk job. I said, no, I don't want to do any of that. I'm not going to do the Army any service if I'm doing that because art's not going to be in it, man. This is what I joined to do. If I can't do that, I'm going to get out. But in my mind, I kept forcing myself to get back to that ability to deploy.
When did you realize that was going to happen, or when did you make that decision?
Probably about a year after the accident. You know, there's this run route that I used to run at work, especially with dogs. It's a gravel path, it's a tank trail actually, drive tanks on. It's very hilly. I always had a standard for myself and a time that I would set. And I would bring dogs with me to get their pads ready, you know, for the rough terrain we were going to be in overseas, a lot of rock, a lot of sand. I'd run them on those rocks all the time. It was when I started trying to do that again, you know, running up these pretty gnarly hills. And I remember I was doing that alone one day. I could never hit the time, not even close to the time that I could before the accident. The pain was incredible, right? I can work through the pain, but I can't ignore the fact that I'm not meeting the standard. And I was doing that one day, and there was a buddy of mine who I hadn't seen again in years, but we're the same people, right? We all have the same mindset. He saw me out there, he was driving by, and he saw me out there, pulls over, comes, and I'm like dying, you know, I can barely breathe. My legs are just shot. Like I'm physically shaking because I'm trying to do what I just can't do. And dude comes over, says, man, we got it from, you know, you've done enough. Just focus on you, focus on being there for your family, focus on being healthy enough to be a dad and play sports with your kids. We got it from here, you know, and just go ahead and live life, the life that you have that our brothers that aren't here with us anymore don't have. And I just realized I was being selfish, man. I was wanting something that not only I probably couldn't achieve, but was going to put other guys in jeopardy, you know, but he saw that struggle from the road, man. And I
think that's very wise of him and brave of him to broach that subject and kind of hit you with that truth bomb that you needed.
Yeah, man. I definitely needed
at the right time, too.
Yeah. Yeah, he couldn't have told me that when I felt good. You know, he had to come and see me at my lowest point and give me the truth then. The truth that I already knew. I just needed to know that they knew it. I was doing everything I could to get back, you know?
Yeah.
But all right.
So, as depressing as that is, we just one after another.
Yeah.
I think we take a short break, and when we come back, we can get into the next part, which is if you know, I guess, kick you when you're down. I don't know if God's got a funny sense of humor or what his plan is, but
yeah, well, he disciplines those he loves, I think.
He must love you a lot, because after all you had been through at that point, you get kicked in the nuts again.
Yeah.
So we'll take a short break. We'll come back. We'll talk about that, and then we'll get into some more present day stuff.
Yeah.
Basically, lessons learned and what you'd like the message to be going forward, both for your kids or for young men that are thinking about becoming a Green Beret, or just your message in general. So we'll come right back.
Yeah.
See you in a moment.
Have you been denied access because your fake service dog vest didn't come with real training? Are you being harassed by the gatekeepers of the service dog community? Are you just simply embarrassed? You may be entitled to dignity. At Thanos & Thanos Attorneys at Paw, we specialize in cleaning up your public image by actually training your dog. Our team of elite trainers is on call nationwide. All trainers are not created equal. Some bark, we bite. Subscribe to learn your legal options and consult our next video before you get banned from your local Target again. Thanos & Thanos for the dogs.
All right, we're back from the break, and before we go any further, I do want to say I do appreciate you telling us stories and bringing up things that you've either never brought up before or haven't brought up in a good long while. And I know it's not easy, and I just want to say I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, man.
And appreciate your service to our country and your sacrifice. I think about you guys meaning, you know, guys that deploy. I go away sometimes for work, and I'm gone like a weekend or maybe sometimes 4, 5, 6 days. And it is tough to be away from family, from your kids. And then I do things I didn't serve, and I go, how the fuck? How do they do it 3 months, 6 months at a time? And usually I don't know, maybe a state or two away, or maybe halfway across the country, but I'm still in the country. And it's rough. It's hard to be away. So my hat's off to you and everyone else that's made that sacrifice. Man, even if they're just driving a truck, let alone getting shot at for a living. So, yeah, deep appreciation for that.
Well, anytime I have someone thank me for a service, right, I immediately thank them for their patriotism, because, man, you guys are who we're doing it for. You know, we're doing it for the guy to the left and right of us. We're not doing it for our government. Right. We understand that without very violent men that are going to go and be willing to do violence on their nation's behalf, we don't have the country that we have. That's what got us here to begin with. There's a lot more of us out there than you think, but it's something we have to keep. It's a treasure for this country to keep. And oftentimes you get a bad rap, man, because nobody needs violence till they need violence. Mm-hmm. Right. That's something you have to. Something I've struggled with after getting out. You know, everybody wants that violence when they want it. But what do you do when you don't need it? Right? It's still who you are. You know,
hard to cage that animal up.
Yeah.
And again, not to ever compare myself with guys in special forces, but we experience the same thing in law enforcement.
Yeah.
Where they want law enforcement to be soft and kinder and gentler, and you know, and then it's like, yeah, what about when someone's causing you and your family harm, and you want a real police officer to show up at your door, not some slug, not someone that's afraid to get dirty. A zero is what we call them. You want a hero to show up, or you want a zero to show up? And anyways, so some recurring themes, you know, with things you talk about. But let's rewind just a touch, because there's still one more thing we got to get out of the way, which is just shocking.
Yeah,
shocking. Tell us, you know, about that, you know, random trip to the doctor, and then what that turned into, which is, it's just crazy, man.
Yeah, man. Long story short is back on my feet after, you know, getting busted up in that accident. And I'm starting to get back together. I'm starting, you know, get back in the gym, getting back in shape. You know, that's always been important to me. I'm going to get there again. I promise you that, especially now that I've come off of this, but I got a diagnosed with leukemia, with cancer, and I just was real lethargic, didn't have a ton of energy. I was still working real hard, working out hard. You know what it was? Had these blood blisters in my mouth. Couldn't stop bleeding anytime I get cut or jabbed, which happens almost every day. Just working like I work. So something was off. So I went to the doctor, man, my battalion surgeon again. That guy takes my blood and he tests it, and then he calls me. And he's supposed to say, hey, man, you're good, or, maybe you need a little more magnesium, a little more zinc, or whatever, right? He says, pack a bag and go to the emergency room, not the one here in town, but the one in Nashville. Oh, man, that's not good, I said, Doc, what's going on? He goes, I'm going to meet you there. So I said, all right, pack a bag, go to the ER, tell him what's going on with me. He's still at work, right? He's trying to get there. They take blood, and I'm just sitting in a room in the ER in Nashville. Got a bag packed, and they're just holding me. And a nurse comes in, and she goes, she's just making sure I have everything that I need. And she goes, hey, has anybody told you what's going on with you yet? I said, no. What's going on? She goes, oh, well, you got cancer. And then she just bounced, just leave. And I was like, God, what kind of cancer? Am I dying today or tomorrow or next week or what's going on?
Crazy.
Slept for about an hour, man, until.
I'm happy she told you, but
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. It's just, there are a lot of types of cancer. How bad is it? What stage is it? All I'd known is from the movies. You go sit down across the desk from a white coat. And he's really sympathetic about it. She's like, no, man, you got cancer. Deuces, I'll see you later. And, from there, man, they immediately started blood transfusions and
again, to be clear, you have the type of blood cancer.
Yeah.
Leukemia.
It's my blood and bone marrow. So essentially, it's all over your body right now. So with an organ cancer, it goes from stage 1, stage 2, right as it spreads throughout the organ or even from organ to organ. Unfortunately for me, it was stage 5 now, right? So we got to get busy treating it with chemotherapy and blood transfusions and platelets and all this
radiation
stuff. My body was because it wasn't a tumor. It wasn't something that you can pump radiation to shrink the tumor or anything like that. Basically, I sound like an idiot trying to explain it, but my blood cells were not maturing properly. So what they used to kill people very quickly, right? Fortunately now with the how medicine has progressed, right? They now treat it intravenously with arsenic trioxide. So arsenic's a poison, right? And that's why chemo's so tough, man. They put a PICC line in for me because I was having daily chemo treatments. It wasn't like I do one a week or anything. It was every day. So a PICC line goes in about here in your bicep, goes into this artery that goes into your heart. And this IV, basically, they trace it through and they dump it right there into your heart. So you're just
dumping arsenic in your heart.
Arsenic into your heart, which my body, shockingly enough, did not take very well, right? It's poison. So the beginning of that was rough, man. Feeling how I imagine people would feel during chemotherapy treatments. And it was a 30-day treatment of that, which I had to miss a few days because my heart just was not doing well. I basically almost had a heart attack, or essentially did have a heart attack because my heart is freaking out over this arsenic being dumped into it. So I have to come off of the medication, chemo treatments for a few days, so that adds days to the. So long and short of it is I was in the hospital for, I think it was like 40-something days, 45, 46 days, like that, maybe longer. I try to block that part out because it was miserable, man. You're in there with people that are straight up losing the fight to cancer. And I had no intent of losing any fight, especially this one, So I was driving those doctors absolutely crazy. It was very important to me that they let me out of my room and they let me work out. There was a little gym there. It was like a little rehabilitation thing. I couldn't do anything that would pull that IV out of my heart, but I could do enough, man. And they took all the weights out of the gym because I was trying to lift weights, and it wasn't good for the stress that my body was under because they were giving me steroids as well at the same time. So that made me feel a lot better than I really felt. Because, man, when they cut me off those steroids, cold turkey instead of like rationing me off, man, I felt like death. And that's really the way my body was feeling. And I was still trying to work out. So, I take the ice bags, Ziploc bags for ice, I fill them with water, and I take my pillowcases. They're like prison, bro. Take my pillowcases and I do like farmer's carries with that, as much water weight as I could put in.
And that was to keep your mental sanity?
Oh,
try
absolutely.
To keep your body strong?
No, just keeping my mental sanity. It's exercise for me is a mental vitamin. You know what I mean? Like I needed it to keep myself sane. You can only read so much. You can only watch so much TV. You're in a room, like a fishbowl, 24 hours a day. You're living there, sleeping there. You're away from your family. Your kids can really only come and visit you maybe one day a week because your wife's got to get them all there, an hour and some change away. I mean, it's just
she's the unsung hero.
Oh my God.
We've talked about a lot of stuff, but she's holding it down.
Man, my whole career, every time I fuck myself up or get sick or injured, and you'll hear that from guys, man. They are the glue that holds the family together, There's no way I can do what I did for a living without knowing that I had a very strong woman back home. Things are going to go bad when you leave, right? Car's going to break down, lawnmower's going to break, the washing machine's going to flood your house.
Kid's going to act out.
Kid's going to act out. Fortunately, man, I have some stellar kids, but we put a lot of work into them as parents. But it doesn't help that they miss you like crazy. She's got to try to explain to them that whole dynamic. You're absolutely right. Unsung hero, man. Was there as much as she possibly could be. But at a certain point, I'm like, I don't want you to be here. Like, I don't want this to affect you, because it's a dark place, man. Everyone around you's dying.
Yeah. And
they're kind of just looking in the fishbowl, seeing how the fish is doing today. Is he going to fucking make it? You kick the bucket yet?
That's horrible.
But yeah, that's what it was, man. So after I got out of the hospital, we got it kind of under control. It was a year.
How much weight do you think you lost?
Oh, man.
I'm just picturing you.
All the muscle weight, that's for sure.
Bones.
Yeah, man. Everything.
And this is fresh off you trying to recover from your
Yeah, dude,
accident.
I'd just gotten on TRT, right? Because my levels were nothing. I was on TRT. I was working out again, putting muscle on. I was terrible because when I got admitted into the hospital, I just had to stop TRT completely. No estrogen blockers, none of that, right? So my levels, my hormones were out of whack like crazy, right? But then you're just atrophying and trying not to. This is one floor of a hospital. I mean, it's tiny. All I could do, it's like a prisoner who gets let out in the yard 1 hour a day. I just go and I just walk laps, man. Walk laps and look out a window. Every window I could get a different vantage point from looking out. And then I'd play little sniper games where I'm like, this is my fucking target. With construction workers across the street. Oh, it was nuts, man. Anything you could do to keep your mental
busy,
sanity.
keep
man.
sharp.
Yeah. But I get out of there and it's a year regimen of chemotherapy every other month. So every day I'd have to drive to Nashville for a month and do IV treatments again for 3 hours a day. And I'm trying to, work in that time frame. But they don't tell you this, man. The number one thing that's sickness, military, the number one thing it takes from you that you can't get back is time. That's my most valuable asset is my time. So now I just use it as much of as I can for everything that I can use it for, man. Everything.
But try to catch up.
Yeah. You lose a lot of your life, man. I've lost a lot of mine. Lost a lot of time with my family. Kids are only kids for so long.
Yeah.
But it's, a certain point, they say it's in remission. There's a lot of things that I do on my own to make sure that my health is super important to me, right? It's a lot of things that I try to do on my own to make sure I'm healthy, but you just can't get away from it, man. A lot of guys that did what I did for a living are coming down, They're getting diagnosed with these rare cancers. A lot of guys are getting diagnosed with other tumor-based cancers. Cancer is destroying our ranks. And a lot of it's, it's kind of like Vietnam. When Agent Orange, they actually admitted it was terrible for people and giving them cancer. Years and years down the road, and there's not too many of us left to cash in on it, I'm sure they'll figure out what it is that's causing it for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very sad, yeah.
Yeah, man, it's, I'm a lucky one, There are guys, and anytime I hear about it, man, I try to get in touch with those guys, and, anything that they need or anything I can do for them, even if I can't physically do anything for them, it's just that mental resiliency, man. Again, I was burdened with the fact that something was trying to kill me. Nothing new, but it does get fucking old,
Hey, so not to be funny, but we'll try to make light of it.
Yeah.
I think I know the answer, but I'm actually interested in hearing it. If you had to, God for fucking bid, deal with one of those major enemies that you've dealt with in your life so far, be it ISIS, be a horrible traffic crash that debilitates your whole body, or cancer, which would you rather deal with, and which is the one you would rather not have to deal with?
Yeah. Well, the easy answer is the one that you can kill, right?
That you can see.
That you can see, that's physically there in front of you, but that's not always the right answer.
Mm.
I think the right answer is the one that's most difficult, because what doesn't kill you does make you stronger.
Mm.
Right? If you shy away from difficult things, and that's never been what I did, you're going to be weaker as a result of it. So the easiest enemy to
the easy way out would be the ISIS, right?
ISIS all day, man. But it's the ones that it's the ones that are going to affect you mentally and emotionally. Physically, I can get over things all day, man. But it's that dark place that you are constantly pushed to mentally that you got to stay away from. It's better for you if you can beat it. Just make sure you beat it. You'll come out stronger on the other side.
Well, on that note, I think let's switch gears, and it's like you've lived many lives, even though you're not even 40 yet.
Yeah.
And you've been through a lot, seen a lot, literally have stared death in the face in so many ways. Came out on the other end better for it, which is incredible. I think, you have to be wise beyond your years. I mean, you could just tell being in the room with you. We've had talks well before being on camera together. And always enjoy being in your presence, and there's a calm confidence being around you. And man, you would never know that you've been through all of that. Like, you don't complain about anything. You walk fairly normal. Like, I'm not that I'm studying your gait, but it never would occur to me that you're half a bionic man. It was shocking to hear that you just got over cancer and beat it. You would never fucking know.
Yeah.
Anyways, having said all of that, what are some lessons learned? What can you share? Almost feel like it's your grandfather distilled down now into this super potent, I don't know. But now the floor is yours to talk about anything you want to talk about.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you for that opportunity. A lot of guys that are much better men than me never get that opportunity. So not only do I feel like I need to speak for them, but everybody who doesn't get that opportunity, right? It's just very important to me, man, that people understand how important it is to go through life being extremely mentally resilient, right? Your body can break down, but you can never allow your mind to break down, right? That strong mind is going to get you through so many things. Be selfless, never have an ego. That ego is never good for you. When I think about, like what do I want? Now I've got 4 daughters and a son, right? Now this doesn't mean I love my daughters any less than I love my son, right? But a father and a son is quite a dynamic, because he's going to be a man one day, and I need to make sure he's going to be the right type of man, right? I always want my son to understand that the most important thing in this world, and this might sound strange coming from me, is kindness. Be kind. The most violent men that I know, the men that are capable of extreme violence are the nicest people, the kindest people that I know. They speak softly but carry a big stick, right? It's that quiet confidence that every man should strive for, you know. I've heard it said before, some men have a crocodile mouth and a hummingbird ass, right? If you think of an animal with a massive mouth and just a little body, you want to be the opposite of that, right? What was really relayed to me in the teams when I got there was, you know nothing. Shut up and learn. You have 2 eyes and 2 ears for a reason. You only have 1 mouth for a reason. It's more important to look and listen than it is to talk. So take the opportunity in every single situation to learn something. Where you are, man, don't ever be the smartest person in the room. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And I mean, that's just so true, right? But again, understanding like these men that are capable of extreme violence, and there's so many of them, and they're all over the place, and you'll never know them, right? Until you have to know them, and God, hopefully you never have to see that side of them, but you got to be thankful that they're there, because that's what built this country from the very beginning. Violent men coming and taking things, and then violently protecting it once we had it, right? Let's not get it twisted. You got politics, you got government, you have all this horse shit. The truth of the matter is, you need violent men. You need to respect them, you need to treasure them, right? You don't need to give in to them, you need to be the right type of violent men. Not all violent men are good men, and not all good men are capable of extreme violence. But when you have that dynamic, like I explained in the teams and within special operations for sure, man, it's a national treasure that you really need to protect, and you need to teach your sons and your daughters those lessons, to be those types of people, because that's the only way that this country remains elite, you know, remains successful. And that's super important for me to be able to explain to people. And for me personally, man, there's that saying that the only thing necessary for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing, right? Evil comes in a lot of shapes and forms, you know. It doesn't always have to be met with violence. A lot of times it needs to be met with kindness and overpowered with kindness. It's just like, it's kind of like that scene from Roadhouse. Just be nice. Be nice until it's time to not be nice. And then be extremely violent, right? Silence, violence, silence. Okay? Be nice. Be kind to everybody you meet, but have a plan to kill everybody you come into contact with, because it could go that way. But that type of mindset is important.
You shared with me offline an idea you had, or a shirt, or explain to everybody the silence, violence, silence. I had not heard that before.
Yeah, it's a saying in the community. Prior to a hit, you're going to come in silent, right? There may be times where you need to softly breach the door. Maybe you're picking the lock instead of explosively breaching it, beating it down with a sledgehammer. You got to be very silent there. And then when you go actions on in the room, you're going to be very violent. And then you're going to be silent again. So
meaning
really the lesson there is, when it's time to be violent, be extremely violent. But when it's time to shut up, shut up. You know, if you're just constantly violent and boisterous, it just doesn't work. You know, be silent, violent, and then silent again.
Yeah. I mean, what I took away from it, correct me if I'm wrong, you know, get the first silent. I think the one that sticks with me, they're all, it's together. It's an interesting thing, because it's shown on the image you have, like you created. So there's, in the silent part, there's a operator with a dog quietly picking a lock, getting ready to do something. And then kind of that element of surprise.
Yep.
And then that extreme level of violence. And then shut up, don't talk about it, move on to the next thing. Nothing to brag about.
Act like you've been there before. It's a big thing, man. I don't know why, for whatever reason, men in general don't act like they've been there before. You know, it's really should be embarrassing for most guys. You know, like a professional athlete. How many times in your professional career are you going to score a touchdown? Every time you score a touchdown, do you have to do a fucking retarded dance? You know? No, you don't. Act like you've been there before, right? And men are starting to become that way in this country. And I wouldn't say all men. Listen, there's a lot of flyover states that are made up of guys that fill our ranks. They're not prevalent on social media. They're not in the limelight, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's all men, but I do want young boys to understand that's not what real men are. You know, act like you've been there before. Silence, violence, silence.
I do think there's a big lack of, it's interesting, like, well, who can the young men now look up to? I think in certain communities, they're definitely looking up to the wrong people.
Yeah.
Criminals, drug dealers, rappers, talking about just shit in, shit out. I don't know who are leaders, and I don't mean appointed leaders, but you could look up to an actor. I'm not saying the actor, but the role they're playing.
Sure.
That's inspiring.
Yeah.
Or at least they're playing the role of maybe a true story, of a true character that existed, that did the thing. But yeah.
Well, I have the answer, man. Every young man should be looking up to the person that created him. He should be looking up to his father, right? That's something that's lacking severely, in this country now. The organic family, having a father and a father that's there to raise the son, raise the daughters, raise the children, and be the head of the household, and be a masculine image for those young men to look up to. In the event that you don't have that father, and we'll get religion, there's always a heavenly father, and he can do no wrong. You know what I mean? I was kind of in that boat for a number of years where I did. That's kind of how I found religion again. Your earthly father let you down. There's always another father to go and seek.
Mm-hmm. And you have your 7-year-old boy that you've talked about. And again, we were talking about it offline in the kitchen. I think my wife was there. And I have my 2 daughters. And sometimes, like, I love my girls. Do not get me wrong. So we discuss having a boy.
Yeah.
But God help him if he does come into existence, because as hard as I am on my girls, I imagine I'll be 10 times harder on him, because the world is not gonna give them a break, boys or girls. Like you said it in so many different ways, and I've been listening. Like, no one's coming to save you.
Yeah.
And what I'm getting at is, how are you trying to raise your son?
Yeah.
And there's certain conversations you can have with him at 7.
Sure.
But they're not going to be received the same way, like the same type of conversation you can have when he's 18, or when he's thinking about following in his father's footsteps and becoming a Green Beret or Special Forces or whatever. Like, so I guess what I'm asking is, what message would you love to send to him now? Would he be of age to truly receive it? Or what do you want him to walk away with when he is 18? And, what do you want him guiding his decisions?
Yeah. It's the way that I'm raising him now. It's the same messages that I'm sending to him now, the same lessons that I'm teaching him now, which are discipline, hard work. I mean, you cannot teach discipline enough at a young enough age, right? This kid sees me getting the ice bath every day. I make sure he sees me do that. He sees me getting the sauna every day. He sees me work out every day. Just be disciplined in every aspect of your life. Don't be afraid of pain. There's a difference between pain and discomfort. When you're uncomfortable, right, you're going to start growing, okay? 1 foot in chaos, 1 foot in order at all times. 2 feet in order, you're never going to grow 2 feet in chaos. You don't want that life either. 1 foot in chaos, 1 foot in order. But again, understand that being kind is everything, man. Now, my little boy loves to fight. It's something he and I do very often. What's more important to me than him being really good at fighting is him being kind to the kid on the playground who has no friends. You know what I mean? I can teach violence much easier than I can teach kindness. Violence comes much easier than kindness does. You really want to challenge yourself, and I always want my kids to challenge themselves. Challenge yourself to be kind. Take the hard right over the easy wrong, which is violence and anger. Okay? I teach my son, man, you've got 2 dogs that are chained to each hand as a man. One's lust and one's violence. You can't tame those 2 dogs as a man, you're going to be a failure. Okay? But it sticks with you your whole life.
I've not heard that before.
Oh, man. the two things that are going to destroy a man: lust and violence, and lust above and beyond anything else. Samson, King Solomon, King David, strongest, smartest, most wealthy men in the world, biblically, lust took all of them down. You know, those are going to be with you your whole life. Get a hold of them now. And as a father, it's my job to explain that to him and to show that to him, but to live my life in a way that's an example for him to follow too. Mm-hmm. So it's a challenge for me every day to be the man that I want my little boy to grow up to be. You know, it's a responsibility, but that's what being a dad is. Mm-hmm. You know, but that's it, man. Be very kind. Be capable of extreme violence. Know when to use which.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Silence, violence, silence.
That's it, man.
Pretty wild.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll end on a note of silence.
Yeah.
After I just say, once again, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you all staying tuned. I know this was a long one, but I hope you got a lot out of it. Like, share, subscribe. See you in the next one.